bad. I can set it to the lowest bit rate, the lowest settings, and YouTube's like, "Fuck you, your quality's bad." I'm like, okay,
Oh,
all right,
it's like Leo has smoother streams than ours.
yeah. And then I look at the stream. So I broadcast in 720p because my Canadian internet is so shit that I'm not going to do it in 1080. But I'm using a GIF image that's stretched as our background animation, so it's blurry anyways. So my view here is, well,
Oh,
what does it
it's
fucking
like
matter
Leo
if I'm going to
has
use this
smoother
dumb picture?
streams than
It might as well just be
ours.
720p. And then I look at the stream. So I
Right.
broadcast in 720p. Man, you know, wait, I'm streaming myself right now, and it's really annoying. There it is. Okay, so so fucking you know like how people have 4K displays nowadays? Like 4K TVs, like, oh, I want a 4K TV. Dude, I'm sitting here rocking 720p going, dude, I grew up with like 480i and lower. I'm pretty happy with 720p.
No
Like,
kidding.
like I'm not a fucking stickler for,
If I want high def, I'll go outside.
well, that's a good
Laser
point.
video all the
None of
way.
us go outside though. I mean, outside is shit. Fuck outside. People are shit.
Don't buy a 3D TV, ladies and gentlemen. It's a stupid fucking
3D
gimmick.
TV. Yeah, man. 3D TV. That was a thing though, wasn't it, for a while? Like,
Yeah, it was.
yeah, I remember that. And I don't know if they're still a thing, but I doubt it. I would guess they're not a thing. Okay, why are we here today? Why are we streaming? Okay, we're talking about this guy named MauLer. Okay, and so I got some comments on I started streaming again, and I got some comments of people saying, "What is this, like a ripoff of EFAP?" And I'm like, "What the fuck is an EFAP? What the fuck is that?" So I go look up EFAP, and it's this, I don't know what you would call it, like a media analysis podcast where him and his friends critique movies and games, but also videos of other people who critique movies and games and things of this nature, basically artistic stuff. And I mentioned this to Word, and Word here sent me a video where MauLer talks about, I guess, the state of art analysis on YouTube. But
Yeah.
more importantly, in my view, he talks about this conception he has about, and if I have this right, an objective criteria for making value judgments, right? So essentially, not a review that comes from your personal feelings, but a review that comes from observable facts about the media in question, which that statement in of itself I have a fucking problem with, but we'll get into that later. So the
Right.
observable characteristics from the piece of media that you then from there determine a unbiased a view, something like that. I guess I don't really fucking get it still, and I've been watching these videos for the last few days. Maybe Word can explain it better. I don't fucking know, dude.
A simple rundown is that Mahler develops this concept based off of lessons from the screenplay called the robot, and the robot is supposed to break everything down that happens in a film and basically determine whether or not it makes sense.
Right.
And it basically tallies up on a scale between like what it says is good and what it says is bad, which what is bad is basically what is inconsistent, what doesn't make sense.
Right. Okay.
Was there any setup or build up for this?
Right.
Right.
Okay. Now, I don't know if anyone can guess this, but there's a fatal flaw with this fucking criteria here. I mean, it depends on what we're defining as objective and subjective, okay? And before we start getting into his video, I want to make that clear for you today, what I'm defining as subjective and objective. Objective can mean one of two things, okay? It can mean a statement that is unbiased or a view that is unbiased, okay? Now, there's a problem with this, because how do you prove somebody is unbiased? You really can't. You can't really demonstrate that somebody is being unbiased. So there's already a kind of a problem with that definition, because if you want me to believe that you're being unbiased, how do I know that you're being unbiased? And with this example of the robot, how do I know the robot is unbiased? Because surely somebody programmed the robot with a preference for logical consistency, right? Or consistency in general. Because to me, consistency itself is also a preference, right? I prefer consistent things in my life. I prefer when I wake up in the morning that my toaster is still in the drawer that I left it in. Because if it's not in the drawer that I left it in, this could create some uncertainty, especially since maybe I want toast and now I can't have toast. And maybe that pisses me off, right? So there's already in human brains a bias for consistency and for logic to varying degrees. So that itself is a value, right? That is a subjective value in of itself. So that's my contention anyways with that. But okay, so an unbiased view, and then beyond that, you have a definition that's more in line with the classic objectivity versus subjectivity question in philosophy, which is, objectivity is a question of material matter, material existence, right? This can of soda on my desk is made up of molecules, and those molecules are made up of atoms, and those atoms are made up of subatomic particles that I can observe and calculate, or whatever. I can detect them in some manner.
Right.
But objective in this sense only refers to material reality, the facts that are in front of us, right? The demonstrable things that we can observe in our reality. Okay, and they have to be made up of matter. In that case, they can't not be made up of matter. Now, you could say things like mathematical facts, right? 1 + 1 = 2. But that's not necessarily a fact in the sense that it's not necessarily objective in the sense of it exists in material reality, right? I mean, I have one can on my desk, and I have 2 cans, and in my brain, I can add them together and say, I have 2 cans, right? But objectively speaking, these are just 2 objects that happen to be in this space at this present time, right? There is no math about it, right? It is just 2 objects that are here. It is just one object. My brain can interpret the fact that there are 2 similar objects, but in reality, there's just matter here, and it just so happens that I have a brain that can interpret them as 2 objects in a space, right? So really, I mean, that's a whole nother discussion. But regardless, these are the 2 definitions of objectivity that I'm going to be working with today. And MauLer, he doesn't really define it, does he, Word, in this video?
Well, I mean, this is kind of the analogy I put to it. I actually wanted to ask Leo this, but he left the call.
It's too boring for Leo, I guess. So Leo.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, he can yell at me about this if he watches this part. So
yeah.
I basically compare the concept of the robot to the concept, or his MauLer's concept of objectivity to the 10 Commandments, and that if something that is considered omnipotent or perceives and observes things through an objective lens, and then creates morals for his followers, then these would be the objective standards for morality. But the tidbit is that it comes down to a value based basis, whether you believe in God. And it's the same thing with the robot. It's like you have to believe that this robot comes from an objective standpoint.
Yeah, exactly.
In order to, claim that, these standards are objective.
Right, exactly. How do you demonstrate that the robot is truly objective? Right. Well, I don't know. Nobody knows, in fact. Nobody knows how to demonstrate this. And this is the thing. This is another important point. Well, actually, we're going to get into all this. Let's just start the video. And
let's start it.
We'll go from there.
We've kept them waiting for too long.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I'm sure they're all very excited for this very boring topic. I'm sure. I already fucking scared Leo away with my autism, so how many more subscribers can I lose? Let's find out.
So permit me, if you will, to go on a rant about the state of video essays and reviews on YouTube these days. Star Wars The Last Jedi was panned quite thoroughly across much of YouTube, but since it is a part of such a popular franchise, it had plenty of fans remaining, as does anything with that kind of reach. At this juncture, however, thanks to months of discussion, most points have been brought.
By the way, I just want to make it clear, I know nothing about this fucking movie. Nothing about The Last Jedi. I don't like Star Wars. It's boring to me. I don't enjoy it. But Word does know some things, so if there's any pertinent point to make about Star Wars here, Word will be covering that, because I don't know anything about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I mean, talking about Star Wars in general, like, I know that George Lucas kind of fucked up the prequel trilogy, but, between the prequels and the sequel trilogy, if you watch all three of them, you'll be able to tell there was an overarching plan in place in terms of the narrative.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to Disney's Star Wars, they just mostly have been focusing on what they're like spin-off stories with the original trilogy and not really making anything new.
Mm-hmm.
They made a movie about getting the Death Star plans, and then they did a spin-off movie about Han Solo.
Okay.
No one wanted a movie about Han Solo. Maybe some people did, but if you watch the sequel trilogy, it's very obvious that Abrams didn't really have an overarching plan in place for the sequel trilogy.
All right, let's do this shit.
To the logical baseline, with some who apparently haven't heard a single counter-argument still trailing to join the discussion. At the end of my assessment, I said that the film was overall objectively bad in terms of filmmaking. It is of poor quality. The utterly broken script was bleeding errors with every second of screen time that passed, and stating the conclusion at the end of the analysis is only natural. It can also assist in creating a scale for objective quality. Now, in relation to those who find my channel frustrating, there is an ongoing conversation about objectivity versus subjectivity. I have been made an example of by a handful of people as the channel who thinks his opinions are facts.
Or to put it like he likes to, his opinions.
So what I can gather from this point so far is that MauLer is not claiming that when he says objectively bad, he means a fact. So he must be referring to unbiased. Right? That must be what he's referring to. Because if he wasn't referring to unbiased, he would be referring to something of material reality, which we would get into the domain of facts, right? So he's talking about an unbiased view, right? And an opinion somebody has that has no bias to it, right? That is unfiltered by preferences, right? That's what I've gotten so far. So, okay.
Are objective, and the opinions of people who disagree with him, well, those are just subjective.
Isn't it so strange that people can't seem to get a quote from my videos that would even remotely resemble that statement? The idea that I tell people they are watching movies wrong, for example, when my discussions are always concerned with the facts you use and how well researched those are, versus the feelings you experience. Anyone is welcome to generate an objective opinion based solely on the measurable elements of...
Okay. An objective opinion. Okay, so an opinion is a view that you have on something, right? Now, can you have an unbiased view on anything? Well, that's a question that's yet to be decided by anybody, okay? Because here's the fact of the matter, at least as I see it. Now, we're going to get into Occam's razor and what that means for objectivity. I might as well get into it right now. First off, we have to acknowledge, if we're going to acknowledge an objective reality, we have to acknowledge that we're using Occam's razor to assume there is an objective reality, because we have no way to demonstrate an objective reality. We have no way to escape our subjective viewpoint, which is our brain. Right? We are trapped in our mind. And because of this, we have to make this assumption. We have no choice. We cannot get outside of the brain. We cannot experience outside of our brain. And we know that... So okay, if we acknowledge that objectivity exists, and we acknowledge... We can take this a bit further. We can acknowledge that the theory of evolution is applicable to human beings, that it is applicable to the brain, and we can also acknowledge that human beings are coded for preferences in their environment, partly genetically, probably mostly genetically, then we have to acknowledge here that we have no way of determining if your opinion is unbiased, because can you even have an opinion without preferences, right? If you don't have any preferences, can you even have an opinion is the question. And if the answer to that is no, without preferences, you can't have an opinion, then by a logical deduction, to have an opinion, you must have a preference, which means you're biased, right?
Right. Hang on, Sheldon.
Yeah.
People are saying in the stream that they can't see the video.
They can't see the video. Oh, okay. Let me fix that. There we go. That should be better. Okay. So now if you're going to state an objective opinion exists, you're going to have to demonstrate that an objective opinion is possible. And
Right.
thus far, MauLer has not done so. So let's keep that in mind for the duration of the video, and let's continue.
The content, or they can generate a personal subjective opinion based on how they felt. But they are completely different conversations. You can't be wrong for how you experience something.
And I'm not coming here to tell you that you're wrong, unless you are actually wrong about indisputable facts.
You see, you can do whatever you want, however you want, feel what you want. Just don't tell me that an apple is a banana and expect me to say you are right by an objective standard. As you just heard, Patrick made a great point. But these same people purport that I make statements about denying someone's feelings or watching movies wrong when they can't show it. Though if we reverse that accusation, I actually can use quotes instead of inventing them. So considering the amount of criticism objective analysis receives from these folks, and how abysmal the current state of hollow analysis is on YouTube, why don't we explore their style and see if it holds up against any kind of scrutiny?
I know it seems impossible to watch movies wrong, but you're watching movies wrong.
Oh dear, that seems contradictive, doesn't it?
And I'm not coming here to tell you that you're wrong.
6 months later.
You're watching movies wrong. You're kind of watching movies wrong.
Well, let's be fair to Will here. I think that's his name. I'm not sure. Opinions, Patrick. Well, what's his name? Patrick Williams? Whatever.
Patrick Williams.
With
yeah.
an E at the end? That's fucking weird. But anyways.
Definitely.
It's definitely weird. But let's acknowledge that opinions can change, right?
Yes.
I mean, he says 6 months later. I mean, is this real? It's a contradiction insofar as this guy said something at one time and at another time said something else. But, I mean, we do want to acknowledge that opinions can change. Perhaps he changed his opinion for whatever reason. Who knows why?
Well, I mean, I think that's something that MauLer, like, I don't remember him demonstrating this at any point in the video, but he's definitely painting this as like a cautionary perspective where it's like you need to stick by your beliefs and biases like the whole time. They cannot change. They cannot waver. I mean, he's been trying to stick to this objective mantra before, like, even, he became a bigger name with, his Last Jedi critique.
Okay. It's just fucking goofy. Okay.
Yeah.
This is what I end up hearing from the same people who believe they have more authority to speak on the subject of film analysis than others.
And all those plot holes people complain about, they don't actually matter. The actual problems are that many of the central characters are totally static and poorly motivated, and the one major moment of growth is caused by a ridiculous plot contrivance.
So plot holes in favor of payoffs don't matter, but plot contrivances in favor of payoffs do? Patrick, you realize that a plot hole is a plot contrivance, but worse, right? At least with a contrivance, it could happen. A plot hole, by definition, is a strict contradiction. It should not happen. You seem to be contradicting yourself quite a lot.
While I make some videos that are technically...
I just want to make a point here about, like, okay, a plot hole is an inconsistency or some kind of events that occur in a film or in a story where something inconsistent happens, something that is not compatible happens, right? In relation to the story's narrative world, right?
Right.
But the problem here is that you can see it as an inconsistency, but you can also come up with any kind of explanation that you want for that inconsistency. And you can, by that way, make it consistent in your brain. Okay.
Right. The scene he's citing when he's talking about plot holes and contrivances and like payoffs for contrivances over payoffs for plot holes is like the light speed ramming thing I was telling you about. And to me, it's Ryan's way. Well, to most people, it's like a middle finger to Star Wars, basically, because when George Lucas creates a concept like light speed travel and implements it into his world, it's only supposed to be used as a means for traveling, not as a weapon. And so now that you've introduced the possibility of it used as a weapon, it's like, well, why wasn't this used in other films? Now there's an expectation in future Star Wars videos for people to use, hyperspeed ramming in battle.
Right. The fact of the matter here is that, us as humans, we're biased to like consistency, and we're biased to like some sort of logical process. And, in a movie, when you look at something and you label it a plot hole and you say, well, it's a plot hole because I think it's inconsistent, that's just you choosing to say, I choose to label this a plot hole because I believe it's inconsistent. But really, for example, let's say in a movie, 1 + 1 = 2, and in the same movie later on, 1 + 1 = 5, right? This is an inconsistency. Let's say it's relevant to the plot in some meaningful way, right? Here's my explanation. The rules of that universe changed for that instance, for whatever reason, right? The reality is that even our own world appears at the quantum level to offer inconsistencies about how matter operates. Inconsistencies that don't apply to our everyday life, to the way we look at the world, right? Things that are seemingly impossible but happen anyways, right? The same can be said about a movie. Really what it comes down to is how you want to look at it at the end of the day. That's what it comes down to. You cannot necessarily demonstrate that a movie is objectively inconsistent, right? You can't really prove this in the sense of ultimately proving it, right? Just as I can't ultimately prove that we are here right now in a material world. Either way, you can't prove it. That doesn't mean it doesn't exist. But to claim that it does exist and that is in fact an inconsistency, and that means by default it is objectively bad, is absurdity. That's absurdity. It makes no sense. It's ridiculous.
Hi.
How's it going, Leo?
My internet went really screwy.
Oh, I see.
Sorry to hear that. Leo, now that we've got you back real quick, I was giving an analogy towards, MauLer's concept of the robot in comparison to the Ten Commandments.
Well, maybe explain to Leo what that is.
Quickly. Yeah. No, I'm going into it.
Okay.
What the robot is or what the comparison is.
Hello? Word?
What I was asking, Sheldon, like the comparison or just the concept?
Well, just explain the concept to him, because I don't think
so.
He's here.
The robot is supposed to be literally based on a belief system here, Leo, that the robot is objective and that its standards are objective, and that it compares, scenes in a film and determines whether or not it makes sense. And if it doesn't, it adds it as basically like a tally mark or a sin counter, if you want to put it in a more CinemaSin sort of way. And it says, basically for every part that it's cut down and takes it out of 100, if 80% of it is bad, then in a scaling sense, it is a bad film because this much of it doesn't make sense or is inconsistent.
Oh man. So yeah, basically it's like, oh, guys, here's my objective criteria. Let's put this through the robot. Oh, look, the robot has determined that it is objectively bad. Thus, it is objectively bad. It's like, what? Who programmed the robot? Who gave the robot the preferences? The robot needs preferences to make a judgment. It needs some kind of code to tell it what is good or bad. And that has to be made by a human. Right?
And guess what that makes it?
not objective. Yeah,
makes it subjective.
right, exactly.
Right. So, like, but here's the thing. This is the comparison I'm making. Why I made this comparison between the robot and the Ten Commandments is it's, God is supposed to be omniscient, and it's supposed to, like, come from an objective sort of lens when it comes to interpretation. And when he gives, the Ten Commandments, these standards of morality, one would consider that it is objective. But it comes with the criteria that you have to have a value system where you believe that God exists in order to believe that, these commandments are objective.
Well,
So,
on top of that, technically, wouldn't that be God's subjective idea on morality? I mean, it's God, and you should probably do what he says, or he'll, burn you. But you can still take that a step further if you really wanted to.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah. So, yeah, basically.
So I guess it's more closer to our point than Sheldon. Both God and the robot are subjective.
Sheldon, what are you doing?
What do you mean?
I see you playing around on YouTube.
Oh, I was bored. Listening to Word. Sorry.
What? What did you do?
Forward.
I didn't do anything. Well, I already heard you explain it to Leo, so I had to occupy my low attention with something else.
Okay, well, what were you watching on there?
Well,
He wasn't. He was dicking around with it.
Yeah, I was just dicking around with the event, looking around and shit. But anyways, okay, so basically where we're at in this video is MauLer has stated that I don't fucking know, man. Like there is an objective criteria and something about plot holes. He's demonstrating that some of these critics on the internet are contradictory in their statements right now and being retarded, basically. Although one of these points is questionable, or two of them. But anyways, it's not really relevant. So let's keep going. Oh, do you have a link, Leo? Is that working for you?
Yes, ICG.
Beautiful. Okay, great.
My assessment had I known it. This is actually a truth. There are a couple of things that I am completely unaware of, and that is a human error, as you would call it. But I am happy to admit
a couple of things. It's a bit of an understatement, but okay.
That I can make that mistake. Patrick talks about how many critics are getting facts straight wrong by not paying attention to the movie, as if he is separate from that collective, only to then, in the same video, say this.
In Alien, if the acid can melt through the floor, why doesn't it melt through the entire ship?
The acid melting through the floor in Alien is not objective. What's objective about Alien is that Alien exists on a storage medium somewhere, and it's made up of code that can play on another device that can read the code, that can display on a TV and light up pixels. That is what's objective about Alien. Like, what you're looking at on the screen right now it's pixels, and your brain can interpret those pixels subjectively to mean something. And just because, 9 out of 10 people agree that acid spilled on the floor in Alien doesn't mean that acid objectively spills on the floor in Alien. It just means that you've evolved over our evolutionary period as a species. We've just evolved this ability to recognize things symbolically and communicate that information to other people. And it turns out that there's some sort of equilibrium evolutionarily that we all tend to agree on most things, right? We all tend to wake up and, when we think of the sky, we can all point at the sky and go and ask each other, what is that up there? And people will go, the sky. And, what's your name? Oh, your name is Rob. My name is Eric. Hey, Josh, what's this guy's name? Oh, his name is Rob. You just said that 5 minutes ago. Okay. I mean, what this stuff, these semantic categories, this language we're using, the things we're looking at on digital screens, it's not objective that we're watching. It's not an objective fact that you're currently watching me talk about MauLer. Okay, what's an objective fact is that you're currently using a device that is using molecular processes to light up a screen and give sounds that you can interpret subjectively to mean something. Right? That's the extremist view on objectivity, but that's the position I take, right?
Well, what is it? It's like people could take a severely negative view to you saying that like objectively speaking, like you're not listening to a video about objectivity or whatever, and people could be like, "What? Wait, what?"
Yeah, that's technical.
And like when you say,
that's right, though. That's right. Yeah. And it's like right at that moment. Like, that's when it clicks for people, and it's like, oh,
I'm making a value judgment on what he just said and how I feel about it.
So what is true is that it's objectively true that you are subjectively interpreting that communication. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what bridges the two. That's what makes us able to do this. Because if we acknowledge we are in an objective reality, and we acknowledge that there objectively exists brains, and there objectively exists a subjective viewpoint that is projected onto these people through their brain, right? Because really you can make the argument that consciousness itself is an illusion from an evolutionary standpoint. Consciousness just gets you to fuck pussies or ride dicks to make babies, right? Consciousness enables you to do that. Particularly in our species, consciousness was a beneficial... Well, consciousness contributed to our evolutionary fitness, and thus it's useful, so we still have it, right? We still can make babies. We can still replicate. So you can really make the argument that really you're not in control of anything, right? It's really your brain doing all the work for you, and it just feels like you're in control, but you're really not, right? So if that's true, then whatever I'm experiencing now is something my brain just wants me to experience because it gets me to fuck babies. Or fuck babies. There we go. That's gonna get taken out of context.
That's going straight to Interpol right now, Sean.
Yeah, we fuck all the babies here on this.
Hey, real quick question here. Are we doing like the entire hour and 15-minute video?
Probably. I don't know.
We might. I'm pretty sure that there's a point where like he gets into the critique of the movie, because this is like, the introduction. Or no, it's like his transition from his essay on like video criticism to his Force Awakens review.
Yeah.
Well, rip me then.
Okay, well, let's keep going. I'll try not to ramble, I promise.
Acid doesn't just burn forever, it will neutralize after it eats through enough material. In fact, that is the immediate concern for the crew of the Nostromo in the film Alien.
That thing's gonna eat through the goddamn hull, come on!
After realizing that it could potentially eat through the hull, they then find the spot where it's reaching its end and comment on it.
It stopped. Don't say anything like that except, molecular acid.
Do you understand how many contradictions we've reached in just a few minutes? His video on plot holes was so poorly constructed that despite the positive ratings on the video itself, an overwhelming proportion of top comments are in disagreement with him. This reaction is actually very similar to the one H-Bomber received on his video in relation to Bloodborne. The fan base will always appreciate a good new video, but once you have time to discuss it, videos with awful argumentation start to fall apart, I would say.
You mean like your video right now? Fuck.
That one of the most accurate examples of this clear disconnect would be Joseph Anderson's attempt at explaining why horror games don't scare him, and his follow-up video. His first video was very confusing in structure, conflating his feelings with facts while presenting that an entire genre is fundamentally broken. This served to reveal a sense of ignorance in the exploration of said genre, and I have honestly never seen such a major portion of the comments section in complete disagreement. Similarly to Patrick and H-Bomber, these were despite the positive ratings. This is the kind of thing that will of course happen to me down the line if I fall out of touch. But how you respond to criticism can often say more than the initial statement ever could. Speaking of which, Joseph responded to the criticism with an extremely condescending video explaining that it is in fact on the viewer to figure out which statements he makes are subjective and which are objective. This absolves him of any responsibility in his own writing, placing the blame directly on the viewers. As a result, the comment section ravaged him once again. These are the kind of videos you end up with when you have a severe lack of self-awareness.
At least 50% of the plot holes that I see people complain about are things that are actually explained in the movie if you just pay attention.
Good evening, comment.
It's kind of like... Hey, how you doing, Manga?
Yeah, sorry I was late. It started snowing when I was coming home, so you know how people get like that, idiots.
Oh, it's all good. It's all good, man. Don't even worry about it. We're just chilling.
Icy roads can turn people into idiots.
I know.
So I sent you a watch together link. We're pretty early on here. We're only 6 minutes in.
Well, I guess for a MauLer video, that's actually pretty good.
Yeah, not bad. Not bad.
Yeah, he just got done talking about your favorite person in the world, Joseph Anderson.
Oh, joy. Yeah. Yay.
Okay,
I can't wait till we get to Quentin.
Well, I see we're on Patrick Willems.
Yeah.
This guy, like, I have nothing to like. Okay, he said a few things here that I find to be a little bit silly, but like the way he moves, like the way he emotes, it just comes off as goofy to me. Like I look at this guy and I think, dude, this guy's like a cuck. He's like a goofball. I don't know. like I'm that's just my view on it. I don't actually know any of that, but he's just goofy. The way he moves just makes me laugh. He's.
Oh, you should have seen the original video. He had like the stupid Hulk gloves on, and he kept punching a guy who kept on talking about.
Yeah, I saw that.
You're watching Patrick Williams videos wrong, guys.
We're watching them wrong. Oh shit. Oh! Did the robot say that word? Did the robot spit that out?
Yeah, the robot told me that telepathically.
Oh, no.
I can see the light.
If the acid can melt through the floor, why doesn't it melt through the entire ship?
It stopped. I didn't say anything like that except molecular acid.
But I guess if you're too busy live tweeting about plot holes, you can miss some stuff.
Patrick and many others.
By the way, Manga, you can, if you have anything to say, you can pause at any time. It just feels.
Oh yeah, I've used it.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, yeah, I've used Watch Together beforehand. It's although fun fact about this, I actually watched MauLer's live stream about Patrick Willems, and I think it was Dishonored Wolf who said he's got that stupid Jewish hat on.
What was that? Was that Dishonored or was that?
I think so. Don't quote me on that, but I do know Dishonored Wolf actually. I mean, during that stream also when they were talking about Roger Ebert, when Patrick was talking about that, he said Dishonored Wolf said, "Yeah, well, the Bible has rules, but I don't have to follow the shit in that."
Yeah. Well,
there's rules for critics and stuff.
Didn't you tell me that MauLer didn't know who Roger Ebert was? Like,
yep.
Are you fucking?
What?
Are you
like? Oh my god!
Like, how do you not know? How are you like in? I mean, it's possible. I'll acknowledge that, but like, how are you into media analysis and you haven't heard anyone mention Roger Ebert? You don't know who this is? I mean, a little strange, a little weird.
I mean, Bennett the Sage one day went off on a tangent making fun of the people who dubbed Akira because he didn't know who Cam Clark was.
Okay.
They got to remember, Shelly, this was the guy who had to look up what oral meant in the same live stream.
Oral? Oh, does he? What? He's never given a blowjob to someone? You could have fooled me. You could have
or received one.
All right.
Real quick, since we have my favorite Butterball on screen right now, like, I'm still amazed that people listen to Movie Bob. I figured that would have stopped when they realized his favorite cartoon is freaking Captain N the Game Master.
Yeah. What the fuck is that?
Ew.
What the fuck is Captain M? Do I even want to know what this is? I don't think.
No, you do not. You do not. If you're a fan of video games, you do not want to touch that.
I'm going to give you a quick little rundown here. You know how a lot of people. You know
what? This is more entertaining than MauLer's video. Let's go. On.
All right. So you know how a lot of people tend to, especially when the whole Thundercat debacle came out, they tried to shoehorn 80s animation was really, really bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Captain N is the 180s cartoon. This animation is really, really, really bad.
Wait, is this Captain Nintendo? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yes, it's not called Captain Nintendo.
It's the Green Mega Man.
Right.
It's the Green Mega Man.
Oh my god! What?
There were entire scenes that had no background cell.
Oh, no way. No, I gotta check that out. I definitely gotta watch it.
And that's this guy's favorite cartoon, and he wants to tell us what is good and what is not good.
I bet the robot would say Captain N is objectively really good.
I think the robot is going to get pissed on by me before I throw it in the backyard and go to town on it.
I mean, the only thing that I found that was actually good about that show was how they, managed to at least make Mother Brain look creepy. That's the only good thing I can give the show.
Well, I can get the show a few other good things. They had really, for the most part, good voice acting, and the way they were able to skirt licensing was nothing short of amazing.
That is incredible. That is amazing. So, Manga, I want to ask, what do you think of MauLer's concept of the computer?
The robot.
The robot. What do you think of the robot?
Kind of a bit of a team because, who decides what, right? Everything's got a bit of a bias, including if you program a robot, it's going to have a bias by...
Yep.
The fact of the matter is, always carry the bias of whoever is putting it in, putting in the programming. It doesn't really matter because it's like unless you do something like... Would you have a chess computer play a game of checkers and stuff like that to have different fundamentals to it? It's just I don't know where I was going with that. I'm an idiot.
I think you're right. I think that I think that to have an opinion, you need to first have a preference, right? So
Right.
So here's a good example, right? Like, okay, let's say you've never had a banana before, okay, and somebody walks up to you and hands you a banana and asks you, how does the banana taste? What do you think of bananas? Are they good or bad in terms of taste? You know, the flavor of a banana. Well, your answer is probably going to be, I've never had a banana, so I don't know what it tastes like. I have no idea. Can you give me some kind of reference to something that tastes like a banana? And maybe they'll tell you, no, there's nothing that tastes like a banana. A banana has a unique taste. Okay.
Banana.
So at that point, you can't make a judgment on the banana. If you're being honest, I mean, you could lie to them and you could say, yeah, bananas are good, but you've never really had, we're assuming some genuine interaction.
Bananas taste like fruit.
Well, there's also the failure of the whole robot analogy. And you see this kind of play also in things like comic or fiction in general. Like, let's say, for example, a character like Lex Luthor, right? Lex Luthor, he's typified as a genius. You know, he's got one of the highest intellects in the world or in the universe as it stands. Yet there are times he gets beaten by the simplest of things. And much like the robot, that's simply because the person who's writing the story does not have the intellect of the character they say they're writing. So it refers back to the writer's mentality and how they write. The robot's no different. It has to defer to whoever or whomever or whoever in terms of multiple people program it.
Exactly.
It can't move outside of the knowledge or understanding of the people who made it.
Yeah, you have to, unless the robot is an evolutionary being. In other words, unless natural selection is applying to a robot, the robot is going to have preferences programmed into it by a human to even make a judgment in the first place, right? So the statement that the robot can give objective opinions or you know, an objective criteria or some kind of judgment or assessment about something is absurd. It's literally not applicable, right? It doesn't make sense.
There's also Manga, if I can ask you a question real quick.
Yeah.
Go for it.
So, obviously, like, if we're talking about the robot, you've seen MauLer's debate with Just Right?
Yeah, I did a little bit. I mean, that's like about, what, like 3-4 hours? Like,
fucking long.
Yeah, but, you know...
I mean, that's kind of what
he brings up, you know, how he's done, like, analysis on stories, like, anti-plot stories that don't have a plot to them. And, you know, he makes this statement that basically, you know, it can't... Like, your robot would say it's terrible because, you know, it doesn't have a plot or it doesn't have any consistency in it, basically.
That's kind of an issue right there because it's being way too generalized, and also considering the fact we're talking about a machine, and like we've been talking about, it depends on what information is put into it. If it doesn't have, I mean, if it had, like, the information of every movie ever made, every story ever made, then maybe, but there's no guarantee because, like, every kind of story is being made, and it also all depends on, like, execution of the story at all, because, like, it's like a joke. If you tell a good joke horribly, it'll be bad, but if you tell a bad joke pretty well and can be entertaining, then it's good.
Well, that, and I just feel bad for the machine having to sit there and watch Fritz the cat repeatedly.
Oh, dear God.
It's even worse than that, I think, because, like, even if... Okay, so you put something into the robot. Let's say it's a movie. You put a movie into the robot, and the robot says... Like Word's example, I like an anti-plot or whatever fucking film, right? You put that in, and the robot says, okay, it's not consistent, or it doesn't have a plot, or it's not logical, thus it's bad. Okay, but you've programmed the robot to prefer consistency and logic and having a plot, right? So... Even wanting something to be consistent is a preference. That doesn't make it true. That doesn't make it unbiased. You're biased for consistency. You're biased for logic.
Actually, that actually brings me to a good point because I think I already told you the ShellyD, but this is actually originally a part of his, like, Star Wars review that he was going on about, like the newest one he's doing.
Yeah.
And in it, he brings up an example called I believe, and it was basically like talking about how in the first chapter of the story they established that only a person can have one set of powers and he's able to defeat Scissorman, but in chapter 2 he's able to defeat Rockman by getting a new power to like rock acid and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Now you can have contradictions in the story. In fact, there's a lot of stories that do that because there's things like take I want to use like My Hero Academia for example. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it.
I've seen a few episodes. Yeah.
Well, I'm just going to talk basically like the first 2 episodes, so it's not really. I mean, it's pretty much established that you can't get a new power. You can't get like everyone's born with it or doesn't get one and stuff like that. But immediately we're giving a new consistent in the 2nd chapter where we learn that someone can transfer their powers to someone else.
Okay. Right.
Not only is that a contradiction of what we know of the entire platform that we were established in the 1st chapter, but it also opens up more mysteries.
Right. Right. I see what you're saying. So from an inconsistency, you can derive another benefit. Right?
Yes, exactly. Just because there's an inconsistency, that doesn't mean it's a flaw. In fact, it can actually open up more potential story.
Right. Yeah, you see, the whole point here is that it depends where your values really sit. And at the end of the day, you can't avoid these values, right? You can't get out of your brain and be unbiased. You can't make an unbiased machine. Like, I want to know how MauLer is doing this. Like, what's the magic here? Does this guy deserve a Nobel Prize for this shit? Like, it's incredible to me. I don't understand. I don't get it.
Here's what I'm thinking, because I've seen his videos a few times, and I think what he's going on about, because one of the issues that he holds, especially like Star Wars, is that in the latest movies, there are inconsistencies with like what we know about the previous universe. Right. Now, I'm not going to be completely on point here because MauLer's videos are like hours long, and I'm not going to remember every specific little detail.
Sure.
One of the issues he brought up was like the Force Ghosts. They somehow got the ability to create Force lightning to strike down a tree, and they never did that before.
Okay.
Right.
And that's something he would call a flaw because it contradicts the previous rules. But again, Force Ghosts actually do anything in the original trilogy, and then, you know, the prequels and all that jazz. So we don't really know too much about them. And like I said, this is not me being completely quoting him, and I could be taking him out of context.
I mean, is it even an inconsistency? Like, couldn't you come up with some kind of explanation as to why it's not an inconsistency?
And I gave you.
Well, I think that's also an issue because the movie doesn't actually go into why they can do that, which, you know.
Well, I mean, I can give a reason.
Yeah, but hold on. Just because the movie doesn't explain it, does that mean that it's absolutely not applicable?
No, it's not.
I would say no, exactly. So how does he even know if his claim that it's inconsistent is applicable then? He wouldn't know. He would have to be agnostic, right? He would have to say, I don't know if it's inconsistent or if it's consistent, but I'm going to make the assumption that it's inconsistent. I mean, he would have to acknowledge that then, right? So, I don't know.
There's one more thing I should point out that also in his latest video, he talks about that he doesn't go into outside materials, like, you know, if there's like a lore
like
book or anything like
series.
Yes, or something that isn't really, you know, applicable in the movie, that the movie needs to stand on its own. And to a degree, I do understand, but if it's like little things like the Force Ghost, in my opinion, I don't think it warrants it to be a flaw, because once again, we don't really know all that much about the Force Ghosts in the original trilogy.
Yeah, exactly. See, that's another thing about this kind of stuff. Like, sometimes a new author can explore avenues that that while it might be an inconsistency, it's basically back to your first point here, where the inconsistency can bring itself new interesting ideas, right? And the audience might like those ideas or they might not. I mean, it's always a fucking gamble as a creator. You never really know how much or how little someone's going to like an idea of yours, right? You're just shooting in the fucking dark. You know, you might have some experience. Maybe you've been writing for 30 years and most of your films have been critically acclaimed, but you still don't really know how people are going to view this one. You have no fucking idea, right? So you just do it and you see what happens, you know.
I mean, you can just take a look at, you can just take a look at M. Night Shyamalan for that.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Well, it's like, you know, like, I'm coming on here, and it's not like I'm coming with, like, the stance that I liked The Last Jedi. I think it was a terrible movie.
Oh, I'm agreeing with you with that.
But, you know, and, like, I, like, personally, like, I don't mind MauLer's, like, style, because I myself just find it entertaining, like, how he just rips things apart.
Sure.
And, you know, he gets frustrated about it, you know.
Would you say he mauls them?
Yeah, definitely.
Wow.
I'm the boomer. I have that right.
Round of fucking applause for Leo here.
Thank you. You're all too kind.
Fuck off.
Okay, let's keep watching this. We're gonna be here for 10 fucking hours, so let's keep going.
Their only recourse is to invent quotes from their opposition in order to make them look more ridiculous by comparison. It's a hypocritical straw man, and it's not very effective. While this backward logic is splattered across different conversational threads, my channel has been generating more and more interest from people who enjoy the central premise. People who rather clearly understand what I'm actually doing here.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, the thing is that later in this very same video, he'll actually attribute quotes to people, but he'll take them out of context.
Okay, so he himself will strawman people.
In a sense, because he'll go back to Patrick Willems, and I actually watched the video that he's going to be referring to, and he'll bring up like how like reviewers don't get paid off and stuff like that, and MauLer will bring up an example of video games journalists who do. But I think we should wait till because we're actually pulling an EFAP at the moment.
Well, no, he doesn't do that. Manga, what he does is like he takes a quote and then he plays another scene where it's like I watch reviewers to see if it's good, you know, and it's like you put those two statements together. It's like, of course they don't pay critics off to say that the movie's good or whatever, and it's like,
well, here's the thing.
You sure?
Here's the thing. In that same video, Patrick admits that there are critics who do get paid off.
Yeah.
Oh, does he? Well, what the fuck? Well, that's a little ridiculous then, because
boy ain't too bright, is he?
Well, oh my! It's like both sides are being retarded, right? It's like on the one hand you have MauLer making claims about like objective preferences or value judgments, and then you have the other guy saying ridiculous shit, but then you have MauLer strawmanning somebody. I mean, like, it's just back and forth. It's just back and forth retardation.
Well, here's the thing. It wouldn't be so bad, but in the original video of this, he actually says, I will be linking to all videos that I talk about or reference in this. And throughout this entire hour, he does not do that for everyone's clips that he's actually talking about in this specific cutout right here.
Oh, really? So in the description, in his video right now, he does not have all the links. He does not cite everything.
Not for this one, the original.
Oh, but the original does.
Oh, no.
The original one doesn't have
Give me a sec. I'm going to look that up right now just to make sure I'm not getting that wrong. Give me a sec. It only takes a minute.
Okay, we'll keep playing while you do that.
No worries, folks. I am fully aware of them trying to play the semantics game to discredit my work and the work of many other creators. Honestly, you should expect more.
I mean, is that what they're doing?
Nope!
Are they...
Nope. They are not in there. All I see is a link to Cat Icarus, one to the Fringy, one to his second channel, himself, Wolf, and Just Right, and then his Discord server.
Okay, so there's no citation to the video where this was cited. Right, okay. Well, I guess you all can go check it out for yourself. You know.
Well, I could put a link in the chat or something like that.
Oh, well, yeah, that could work too. Yeah, if you can find the point where William clarifies that, you know, critics are paid off, if he actually
we can pull a Quentin reviews on EFAP.
Is this what we're doing? Are we pretending we're fucking EFAP now? Holy shit.
Look, I freaking hate Trump.
Look.
The
only
we're
fucking
definitely every frame at ponies. Yeah, we're every frame at
don't
ponies.
Don't even start that shit. But here's the thing, right? I was saying like earlier, I started streaming again, and then people are commenting and they're saying, "Oh, you're like an EFAP ripoff." I'm like, "What the fuck is EFAP? What the fuck is EFAP?" So I look up EFAP. And I mentioned it to Word, and that's how we got onto this MauLer shit, because I had no idea who any of these fucking people were. No fucking clue. And, but, okay, I guess if everyone thinks we're a rip-off EFAP, we are now the new EFAP, all right? We have taken over the old EFAP. Fuck the old EFAP, we're better, so watch us instead.
We are going to behead him and gain his powers via the clicking.
Yes.
Absolutely.
We're going to drink his syrup.
Okay. All right, let's keep going.
More of that as my channel grows, since making enemies is just par for the course on the internet, especially when you tell someone that something they enjoy is poorly crafted, or vice versa. Separating how they feel from the art itself is something they disagree with at the core, so of course they get upset when you point out a flaw they can't reconcile emotionally. But this is not a foreign concept for them. They are fully aware of the difference between objectivity and subjectivity, and they know when content is poorly made. It simply doesn't apply when it's their sacred cow. Thus, they end up taking criticism as a personal insult, but good lord, that is not the case. Besides, it's much easier to simply smear people who disagree with you.
I don't know, MauLer. I wouldn't be playing too much of this like like guessing people's motivations for the reasons why they do the things they do. I mean, you know, it's tricky because you know, you can make some theories about it, but you don't necessarily know what's really going on there. So I would caution you to not do that.
You could make like a 3-hour vid, like just over like Joseph Anderson's videos and come to the conclusion that like he has some kind of agenda, and you'll still get scrutiny for it. It's like I don't really think you should be assuming intentions here.
Well, it's like you're playing Freud, you're playing Jung right now, right? Like you're attempting to figure out their psychology, but I mean, you don't really know, man. Like, come on, you know.
I mean, I'll agree with you with that, but at the same time, I mean, I've did videos on Joseph Anderson, basically when he talked about how horror games don't scare him, and he had I mean,
yeah. Me and Sheldon had a discussion about that before we even got into the stream stuff.
Well, I mean, the thing is, it came up like him having a double standard, and if you listen to his words, like he says, I came to this conclusion after playing Silent Hill 1 and 2 for the first time, but the first time he ever played those games was on a live stream, and he couldn't really, you know, appreciate like the actual atmosphere of the games.
Well, it's like he makes the comparison. Like he even goes earlier on in that manga, like in his video, when he's like, you know, the first time I watched horror movies, it scared the crap out of me because they were so spooky or whatever. He likes to use the word spooky.
Wait,
equivocate to scary. And then like he's like, when I play horror games, they don't scare me as much. And I'm like, so you're making a comparison to horror games to horror movies to make an assessment why like the horror genre of video games are bad.
That's interesting. But anyways, go ahead, Leo. Go ahead.
I'm not very big on horror games, but I'd imagine 90% of the impact comes from the mood and setting you surround yourself into. If you're playing it in a brightly lit room with the sun shining and you're talking to all your buddies, it's probably not going to be as freaky as in the middle of the night with all the curtains closed by yourself. I mean, isn't that the same concept as horror movies in general?
Well, here's the thing, Leo, is that like his main point of contention is that like most, if not all, like
I just want to point out this is kind of off topic.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I know. Well, when you do, I actually did find the clip of what I was talking about with Patrick Willems.
You did.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Although he doesn't actually say
to Sheldon.
Do have to preface it wasn't exactly what I told you, but it was basically he said, I know that movie studios would want to hire reviewers to get good views or something like that. Give me a sec. It's around the 50-second mark. I'll send it to you directly.
Okay.
That is so cool.
What's so cool?
Sorry, I just got a pop-up notification that they made a giant model kit of King Gosorer, and he's freaking rad.
You're a fucking nerd. Holy shit.
Yes, I am. You're sitting in a live stream with a guy named Manga Comment. You should have expected nerds.
Critics
he's got you there.
Okay, so we're gonna play the clip now. Let's see what he says. Wait, is this even like broadcasting? Oh, it's good enough. Whatever. I don't care.
Yeah. Amorphous entity that all conspire together with one single opinion. So when someone complains about the critics, they really mean hundreds of individual people, all with their own unique opinions. And critics do not.
Not playing on my end.
It doesn't need to play on your end. Just so the
hundreds of individual people.
I trust what Manga said. So.
All with their own unique.
Like it's around the 50-second mark.
You're watching another video.
Oh, we're watching Patrick Williams.
Yeah, so I'm showing the audience the clip, right?
Okay. I just got lost.
I should have clarified. Yeah, it's okay.
My boomer everything. They have to watch every movie.
A little earlier.
Genuinely own unique individual.
A little earlier.
Where the fuck Where did you time? 50 seconds. Okay. All right. I gotcha. 50. Here.
So why would studios waste money on that? I mean, sure, they would like good reviews because it helps with marketing, but no critics are actually being paid off by studios. That's nonsense. Critics are not an amorphous entity that all conspire together with one single opinion.
Okay.
Yeah, you gotta
go to the what?
Yeah, the
50 seconds, right? Hello? Did I lose everybody? Are we dead? No? Okay.
I'm sorry, I keep mixing my audio with the one in the stream because I'm trying to figure what Patrick's saying.
Okay, so he's saying, I'll quote.
Box office. So why would studios waste money on that? I mean, sure, they would like good reviews because it helps with marketing, but no critics are actually being...
They would like good reviews because it helps with marketing. Okay. So what's implicit in that statement? Well, what's implicit in that statement is that movie makers like good reviews because it gets people to see the content or what the film might be about, which might put them in the seat, which might get them to buy a ticket, right? Because we're talking about marketing. We're talking about, the way a product is shown to a population and to potentially get them to purchase it, right?
Right.
So implicitly in this statement is an acknowledgement that I'm all over the place, that critics do value positive reviews or just reviews in general, for a marketing purpose. So you're literally saying, like fucking, people who make movies do like people to make reviews because that gets people to see movies, right? That's what he's saying with that statement. So that's accurate, Manga. That's accurate.
Although the thing I should also point out next is that right after this, and I actually can quote this right, Patrick goes on to say that critics are not amorphous, meaning that they're not all one huge group of thing, which is kind of funny because MauLer then, before he plays that, he actually puts like that clipping of like a game reviewer who gets bribed and stuff like that. And it's kind of going against what Patrick is saying because, yes, individual critics can be bribed, but critics as a whole, you can't really bribe them all.
Right. Okay.
Well, what is it? Here's the thing: is when Mark Hamill was talking about The Force Awakens, he's like, just because The Force Awakens made a lot of money, or it is making a lot of money, it doesn't mean that ergo it's a good film.
Well,
but you could say that about any. You could say that about any film.
Right. Well, you could say it about anything.
Right. Not
like, hey man, I'll sell you my fucking lamp for $1 million. And if somebody buys it, it doesn't mean it's going to be a good lamp. It just means this guy was willing to buy a lamp for $1 million. That's all it fucking means, right? He saw some value in it where it was worth to him the $1 million transaction.
I could see that if it was the Amityville 4 lamp.
What is that? I don't know what that is.
Oh, it's one of the goofiest horror movies you've ever seen. You should look it up.
Okay. So it's like treasured by people because it's this.
Yeah.
Well,
like the thing is, here's the thing. It's a demon possession story, like a haunted house, but the entire haunting is by a ghost who's possessing an evil lamp.
Okay. So the lamp is like the main one of the primary focus of this. I can see why then.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's keep going.
Rather than open a discussion. Isn't that right, Quentin?
To state that your opinions, which mostly come down to things like thoughts about the lore and nitpicks about dialogue, are objective facts that can never be disputed by anyone, is ridiculous.
Well, you can sit down for now. I have some important stuff to get out of the way. I'll see you at the end. Many people across all debate, discussion, and discourse from the dawn of time have put in a strong effort to blur the line between subjectivity and objectivity. If not by malice or ignorance, it is a backward way to win an argument. To redefine a landscape until your feelings are considered fact, with no regard for what the very definitions of those words even are. And with more and more controversial discussions taking place, you will eventually find the word opinion is thrown around far more than references to the topic being discussed. The purpose behind it, in this case, is to champion the idea that there is no such thing as good or bad content, that everyone is simply sharing their perspective. The mentality that everyone gets a medal.
It's not that, no. It's not that there isn't good or bad content. It's that to an individual, something might be good or bad, right? So for that individual, it is good, right? So that's not saying that there is no good or bad. That's just saying that, my preference is that it is good. And your preference might be different because we're not the same person with the same brain with the same preferences, right? And that is a fact. That is the fact.
Here's the thing, Shelly. MauLer does go on to say that you personally can like this thing, but you can't objectively tell me. And I've got a bit of an issue with that because what exactly is the objective here? I mean, what are the objective stances and like this? Because, let's take like that food analogy again. Like you can say like something that is, freshly picked might be good, but you can't say like something completely rotten is good, right? Is that what MauLer is kind of referring to when he comes to like his own analysis?
That's kind of what he's saying. And here's the fact of the matter, though.
Well,
Well,
you
okay,
go
go
ahead,
ahead, Word.
Sheldon.
No. Well, if you want to clarify something, you should before I
So,
start rambling.
We're talking about H Bomber guys critique on MauLer's video, right?
Are we? I don't know.
I don't
not
know. I
yet.
stepped out for a second. Okay, well, you get into your food.
Well, you didn't even fucking hear it, and you're like, "Oh, we're talking about this, right?" Holy shit. Okay. Anyways. Yeah. Okay, so, like, just because people think that rotten food is not good doesn't make it objectively bad. It just means that people evolved a preference to not eat rotten food because it turns out rotten food can cause disease and illness and fucking kill you, right? So
Well,
it's
and
but
then
it's a preference though. It's not a fact. It's just a preference to things in the environment, right?
But then there's also another context you can look in because rotten food can be used as a fertilizer.
Right, exactly.
About you could probably say that's a fact. I mean,
Well,
depending on
even manga, even some fermented rotten foods can be eaten safely, right? So it absolutely depends on what food we're talking about. And all of these things. But I guess if we're speaking generally, right? Generally, people aren't going to go to a grocery store and buy rotten apples and rotten oranges, and like they're looking for fresh products, right? Because they want something that's not going to make them sick. And it doesn't even have to make them sick. It just, as long as they have a belief in their mind that this might make me sick, that's enough for them to avoid it. Right?
People also have a preference for ripe food. As in they want food that lasts much longer, or just aren't intending to eat it sooner rather than later.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's another. This just gets so much more complicated the more we go on and on about it. But I agree.
Ellie, I love the thumbnail. I love the thumbnail for the stream.
That was Word. That was Word.
Yeah, I found this in this fan film, or like this fan video that someone made for MauLer. It's called MauLer executes order number 93.
Okay.
No matter what. Participation is now enough to celebrate quality. Everybody who was in the race now gets a first place medal. It's as if they no longer want to recognize how well the goal was completed or how shockingly it was failed.
So, okay, MauLer here, this is interesting because he's making an argument that, people who spout this view that, your opinion about this movie is subjective. Right, or if MauLer claims that something is objective about a film in terms of its quality or its value, and you come back and you say no, it's subjective. MauLer is saying this is like a participation ribbon thing, right? This is like, okay, you people who are saying it's subjective, all you want here is everybody to win, right? You just want everybody to have their view and no one's right or wrong. But is it that? Or is it maybe, or is it maybe that we've just in philosophy recognized a distinction between objectivity and subjectivity, and because we've recognized this distinction over thousands of years, people have just what would you say? They've adopted the view that there is a separation here. Why is it that everybody or a lot of people just have this participation ribbon thought to it? Why is that the case exactly? I don't know.
Because they want their voice to be heard.
Goofy.
They want their ideas to be championed.
Leo, did you have something? Because I do want to say something, but I want someone else to say it before I begin.
No, floor is yours, my man.
All right, so to me, I don't think that's what MauLer is getting at. I think, and this is just me speculating here, that he sees people using the opinion card, because he'll go on later to say it, as a defensive measure.
Okay.
But
hold on. Is it a defensive? But why are they using it as a okay. So you're saying they might say that it's. But why is he saying it's participation ribbon-esque then? I mean, what's the connection?
Well, here's the thing. Because because they're not wrong. Everyone's right about this because.
Yeah. Right. So in other words, there are no winners or losers. Right. There's just opinions. And I think it's right, though. I mean, I think that's correct. I don't think there's objective right and wrong, like in the sense of a value judgment, right? Like that.
Again,
that's
it depends
just
on the context and what we're talking
about. Well, not really. I mean, whether or not you're talking about morality or aesthetics. I mean, I don't believe in objective morality, and I don't believe in objective aesthetics. So,
what I'm talking. I mean, what I'm talking about is like once again the context. I mean, imagine if like you were watching like Kirk fighting the lizard, and you see on like one of the rocks, you see one of the intern's coffee cups sitting right there.
Yeah.
Would you say that be an objective flaw, or would you say that be just like go, oh, it's my opinion that's a flaw?
Well, I would say it's my opinion that it's a flaw, right? Like, okay, so let's say the authorial intent of the filmmaker or the TV show or whatever is that the coffee cup wasn't supposed to be there. Let's say that the author says that was a mistake. Well, whether or not
it's a mistake.
Well, whether or not I consider something a mistake is a value judgment, right? That is to say, whether I think something is misplaced or incorrect or right or wrong depends on like how I interpret that thing, right? It's not necessarily, it's not objectively a mistake. It's a mistake insofar as the director is concerned, or the writer, or the whoever the fuck left the coffee cup there and didn't catch the error. That in their view is an error because to them the scene that they made was not supposed to have the cup. But to any audience member who might be none the wiser, they might see it and go, well, what was the authorial intent of that? I'm not sure. Like, was that intentional? Was it not? Was it really a mistake from their view? Was like, it's not objectively a mistake. It's just that you can interpret it as a mistake or not. And the director can do that, or anyone can do that. Right, exactly.
It's like the car in Fellowship of the Ring.
Right.
Oh my god. I know this is off topic, but I know that we talked about Quentin reviews in here. He just put out a shirt where he had Keemstar's tweet to him saying, hey man, I just wanted to remind you that you are a white man, in case you forgot. And he put that on a t-shirt that he's going to sell.
I should buy one of those and wear it. That sounds beautiful.
Yes, I am white, so therefore I have a right to buy it.
White is right, as they say. So, you know.
I don't know, man. I'm Hispanic. I think I might have a different take on that. At least we know how to season our food, Whitey.
Oh, wow. Good one. Man, I'm so offended by that. Okay, let's keep going.
No, I was lying on albino.
I'm talking about The Room, or Birdemic, or how about CinemaSins? It is very difficult to find anyone who declares CinemaSins is a channel of quality. However, CinemaSins is a form of art. He has transformed the original content for a different purpose.
Sure.
Surely whether his work is bad is purely subjective. Of course, I don't see it that way, but what I'm trying to show is that they do use objectivity as a scale when it suits them, but that fights their principle of...
Well, it's like right there. He says the magic phrase, Sheldon. I don't see it that way.
Right. I don't. Well, that's the thing, right? I mean, because we can't demonstrate that objective reality exists, what we're really doing at any given moment is just expressing opinions about what we think is objective reality, right? Because you have to make a philosophical decision to acknowledge that you can't demonstrate objective reality, which is Occam's razor, right? You have to say that. Even science doesn't claim it's proving anything 100%, right? Science just says, we go by the empirical criteria, which is observable, it is testable, and it is repeatable. And perhaps we'll peer review this, so we'll see if people agree with us, and if they do, then we're going to file that under objectivity, right? But you haven't really demonstrated anything. You can't get out of your brain. You can't do it, right? So we have to work with this assumption. And that's okay, by the way. And the reason it's okay is because things work predictably and well enough to be functional to us, right? This computer I have on my desk right now, without all the research into physics, we wouldn't have this computer. But guess what? We did research into physics and it appears to work consistently, and now we can all have computers. And that's good enough. It doesn't need to be proven to be 100% true for it to be useful, right? So there you go. That's
I mean, it was more than just physics, but whatever.
Well, yeah, okay. Oh, fair enough.
I would actually say that maybe CinemaSins as an example, or him talking about it, isn't really something to bring up, because they make claims that can be 100% proven wrong all the time, and I don't think they should be really taken. But I mean, even MauLer has said that he'll watch CinemaSins before he watches a movie in order to see if it's good or not.
Yeah.
Hey, Sheldon.
Yes.
Vita wants you to fix your starting soon scroll.
Well, just because Vita wants me to fix it, I'm not going to fix it.
Okay,
I mean,
well, I'll let you know he's spamming your chat with it.
Okay, good. He can keep spamming.
Starting soon scroll? What?
Yeah,
You mean
I
the
have a
videos
scroll.
thing?
I have a scrolly thing. I have a scrolly thing that I didn't.
Well, it's in Vita's opinion that's a bad thing to have it up there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
That's exactly
totally
correct.
subjective.
That's right. That is subjective, Vita. I do not acknowledge your subjectivity. I do not care.
Technically, we are starting back the video soon.
that is true. Every time we pause, we are starting soon. Very true. Very true.
Coming down to an opinion, so you will only find it happening with the things they so desperately want beaten into the ground. Ultimately, if you subscribe to these channels, their standards get very confusing, so I say let's throw them out the window in favor of something far more consistent. I think I should be clear in saying that anyone, including myself, likely in this very series of videos, will eventually of content, and it can be assessed for a conclusion. There are plenty of ways to determine it. Let's start with getting facts wrong. That would be a big one. We open up in the 1970s with two characters that have a plan to share weaponry to communities surrounding the area with Wakandan technology because of the struggle that persists. No, it was set in 1992. What's wrong with you? As far as I'm concerned, plenty of these show an opportunity for a backstab to activate, and it comes across as the game falling asleep. Don't you know that the Jester robes are immune to backstabs, you hack? We then see the Hulk has been transported directly to Camotage. No, it was Sanctum Sanctorum. How can you call yourself a critic? Yes, these are a few moments of several in which I get things wrong. Do you know why? Because there is objective information that I failed to research correctly. I made mistakes in the art I created. My work is therefore flawed.
Yeah, but, like, okay, so just because you base... just because I use facts to come to a value... just because I use facts to come to a value judgment doesn't mean that the value judgment is a fact, right? Even if you use... this is kind of the point, right? It's like, okay, I'm watching a movie. And let's say I watch the movie and I like it. And I say, I like the movie because I ran out of soda. And, man, okay, that maybe doesn't make as much sense. Let's say I hated the movie because I ran out of soda. Okay, well, that's a little strange, right? Because you're not talking about the movie at this point. What you're talking about is the fact that you ran out of soda makes you not like the movie, but you're not talking about the movie, right? You're talking about the soda being the reason you don't like the movie. There's a mismatch there, right? But that still doesn't create an objective criteria for the value judgment, right? I mean, it doesn't matter if I say it's the soda or if it's the content of the movie. Regardless, I'm still making a subjective judgment based on a preference at the end of the day. So why do you label it objective? What's the fucking point? What are you doing? You're just confusing people, right? You're just making this more difficult than it needs to be for people. At the end, does that make sense? That's how I see it.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Again, this goes back to the continuity thing that he keeps bringing, that he brought up in his reviews and such like that. I mean, don't get me wrong. If there's continuity errors within the film itself, then I can understand. But if it's separate films, then I don't really see, because technically we have things called retcons, and any new information we get about a character or a story, that can be a retcon and be new information.
Yeah.
It can be conflicting with what we know. I mean, we already talked about this, but
yeah.
Contradiction in a story, that doesn't automatically mean it's flawed. It depends on the execution, and even then, that's subjective.
Right. Okay.
Affecting the overall objective quality. This is possible when you understand that objectivity exists in art. But when it comes to these people, facts are frustrating because it can force a strongly held position to face scrutiny when they would prefer to simply enjoy their perspective while letting others know they are incorrect for having theirs. This approach to analysis is novel and oftentimes very entertaining, but it will leave you completely inconsistent and outright embarrassing to listen to, especially when you begin to completely contradict your own thesis with...
See, this is MauLer's, MauLer talks about sacred cows, and MauLer's sacred cow is consistency and logic, right? That's his sacred cow. So I just wanted to point that out. I wanted to point that out because you have to understand that MauLer, just because you base something on logic and I feel like I'm fucking repeating myself, and I think we're probably going to end this fairly soon because really we're just going to keep repeating the same fucking points over.
We're 11 minutes in this video. God help me.
Yeah. Again, we come back to this thing where MauLer, just because you prefer consistency and logic doesn't make it objective. It doesn't make any just because something is not consistent or not logical doesn't make it objectively bad. He doesn't understand that his preference for logic and consistency is the subjective part, right? That is his subjective preference, and he's just labeling it objective for some fucking reason, and I don't know why. I don't know why. Why are you doing this? Like prove to me that that's objective, right? Prove to me that consistency is objective. Do inconsistent things not exist? Do illogical things not exist? They might hypothetically, especially illogical things. How do you know? You have no idea. You have no clue. Right. You're just assuming it, right? So again, I mean, the tip I want to give MauLer here is, really think about what you're saying and don't make such absolute claims about that kind of stuff, right? Like, just, at the very least, if you want to make an assumption there, you can, but acknowledge that it's at least an assumption you're making, right? Don't act like it is just the fact because why? Like, I can say anything's a fact, MauLer. I whatever I say is a fact now. Because that is what he's doing essentially. He just doesn't realize it. Who's the fat dude with the beard? What's his name? Quentin? Is that him?
Quentin. Yep, Quentin.
Yep. Quentin accused him of, him saying his opinions are facts. But that is what he's doing here, right? By him saying there is this objective criteria, and if part of that criteria is consistency and logic, and if it's not met, then it is not objectively good. It is objectively bad. That is him ascribing his subjective preferences, which is logic and consistency, onto the label objectivity. That's exactly what he's doing here.
I mean, have you seen like one of his reviews where he just goes like unbridled rage or unbridled praise and stuff like that? It's not really objective analysis. It's just basically him like going through the entire movie and just like talking about things like and telling people to go fuck off.
Well, I guess MauLer would respond to that with, well, yeah, that's me being subjective in that instance. That's just my subjective opinion there. But no. When I'm talking about this Star Wars The Last Jedi, now I'm being objective. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Like an actual example from his like Last Jedi review, when he talks about like Poe and when he's getting like the whole when Poe's still in that small sand village, and we got like a little droid coming in. I can't remember his name.
BB-8.
Yeah, BB-8. The droid comes in, enemies coming out, and Poe goes out and looks through his binoculars to see where the enemy's coming from. And in his video, MauLer's critiquing that Poe is wasting time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, it's like he goes out and then like observes that they're coming, and then they like take a couple minutes to, discuss what is happening.
Oh no, he actually makes that point before that happens too.
Oh, okay.
And I'm thinking, see where the enemy's coming from, how many they are, and how close they are, because unless you can automatically understand what droid is saying, MauLer, you can't really claim that BB-8 said, like, they're just outside the doorstep!
Right. Another assumption, essentially, right? So,
in a sense, once again, I don't want to come off like I'm strawmanning him, you know what I mean? But
Right. Which, by the way, a straw man might be inevitable. I mean, unless I can sit there and talk to the man one-on-one, it's going to be difficult to really suss out what he means by a lot of this. Because,
Shelly, you actually could go talk to him. He does have an open Discord server, and he's usually in there. You can go in there and talk to him.
I gave Sheldon the link.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, that's our plan. Our next step here is to approach MauLer and talk about this shit. But we definitely want to. Okay. Well, we love shitting on people. That's the point of this stream. If you could,
Sheldon, why would you say that on stream?
So, hey, but we like shitting on people, but having actual discussions at the same time.
Yeah. That's only a last resort.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, last resort. That's just when you want some entertainment. You want some fun. But anyways, okay, let's keep going. I don't know how much more of this I can fucking take, frankly, but let's keep going.
Without even realizing it.
There will always be people for whom an experience just isn't for them, or who are too dumb to understand how to play something, or don't realize that something they think is good is objectively bad. Some people really like Fallout 3, and they seem to be the specific type of people who think clicking a dislike button is a decent way of expressing their feelings. In other words, objectively stupid people like Fallout 3. And there is a right way to play the Souls games. You can hide behind the shield a lot, die over and over trying to memorize every encounter, or use magic from a distance to avoid having to engage with the game, or wear the heaviest armor and hope that'll save you. But the reality is, it's just more fun playing it as someone who dodges, who weaves, who parries, and who uses situational awareness to assess a situation.
You guys remember H-Bomber Guy? He acknowledged my existence again on Twitter. It was wonderful. Last time he spoke to me, it was about my DS2 series, and in relation to someone saying they couldn't be bothered to watch any more than 10 minutes, he had this to say at the end of the conversation. Have you ever eaten something bad and stopped, or realized there were 8 more courses?
I just want to say, somebody says in the chat, MauLer uses a basis of consistency and logic to get as close to objectivity as possible. The point is to remove as much emotional connection and bias as possible to make a conclusion based on facts. Yeah, but the basis...
But the point is
the
that he has like a value judgment.
Yeah, like the basis of consistency and logic is a value judgment, right? Like you saying I like consistency and logic is you having a bias. I mean, you can claim that he's trying to remove as much as possible, but is he actually doing that? How do you know he's doing that? You don't know. You have no fucking idea, right? So this is the point. You have no idea to really know. You just have to take him at his word. And if you want to take him at his word, you can absolutely do that. Feel free to do
Yeah,
that.
which I do.
yeah, feel free, but I don't buy it, right? I'm not convinced by this argument. I don't think he's any more objective. What does that even mean to be more or less objective, right? I mean, like, is there like a halfway point between objectivity and subjectivity? Does that actually exist? Does that even make sense? I don't know. I'd have to think about it, I guess, but,
like I said before, his mantra of the robot is more of a gimmick, and like, to some people it's entertaining like me to see movies getting ripped apart in this way, and then MauLer giving his thoughts on what is being said and happening in the film, using other movies.
Yeah,
my favorite one is the Predator one. Like, he makes reference to like how in the previous Predator movies, like, they were awesome badasses, this unstoppable force that you'd shit your pants if you came across. And then like this new movie is like they want autism. That's what they wanted this whole time.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna shit on him for the idea of the robot. I mean, it's a fun idea. I don't like on the pure basis of like trying to explain something to somebody. It's not a bad idea. It can be fun and interesting. Sure.
Well, here's actually a response to that comment you just read, and it says, "But movies are made with emotional highs and lows. You can't make a good movie without that, because to do that, you can't make new stories, which means you are only doing documentaries."
Well, good and bad are preferences. That's subjective. That's a value judgment.
Yeah.
Right.
No, but that's what. But the point is, like, movies are made with emotional highs and lows and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And once again, that comes down to like execution, and execution is kind of different for everyone. How they have like different preferences.
Right. Exactly. Like here's the thing about objectivity. Right. Consensus does not equal objectivity. This is very important to understand. Right. If you polled 1 million people, and 999,999 of them told you that this painting is better than that painting, that doesn't make it objectively true that painting A is better than painting B. What it means is that the population sample you have evolved preferences that push them towards preferring painting A over painting B. That doesn't mean that it's objectively true in the sense of outside of a perceptual system that painting A is better than painting B, right? That doesn't even make sense. That is just not applicable. That's my argument here. Now, there's another point here I thought about. MauLer could respond with a definition disagreement, right? He could say, well, that's not what I mean by objectivity. And really, at the end of the day, this is going to end in one of two ways. It's going to end with a semantic dispute, or it's going to end with a value dispute, because that's how all these arguments always end at the end of the day. They're always, well, at the very bottom, I just disagree with your preference, or I just disagree with your definition, right? That's how these always fucking end.
Right.
Yeah, so,
Shelly,
a definition I might add that was made by a human being with values.
You know what, Shelly? I'm going to make a prediction, too. I'm going to predict this is going to be on EFAP.
You think so?
Why not? They actually responded to a guy who had like 500 subs.
Oh, wow. Yeah, so they don't discriminate autism, so that's good.
They don't.
Yeah. Come fight me. Fight my autism, MauLer. Bring
Fight me
it on.
IRL. 1v1 me, bro. 1v1 me.
Fight me
We'll
IRL.
meet at BronyCon 2019 if it doesn't get shot up.
Yeah, MauLer, I bet you're too much of a pussy to show up at BronyCon. Do it. Do it.
Okay, here's what you do. You go to Walmart, you buy a gun, you go to BronyCon.
Okay.
Don't do that to the last BronyCon. At least let it die with dignity.
It's BronyCon.
It's
BronyCon.
sad.
It didn't have dignity.
Hey, man, it's sad. It's sad, man. It's sad.
No, it won't be sad. It'll be funny.
It'll be funny if Digi's there and we can all beat him up.
Oh my god. Oh, Digi. I could go on for
Okay,
hours.
if Digi is there and we beat him up, I need to at least wear gloves and maybe a hazmat suit. I'm not touching that man bare skin.
If Toon Critic shows up, can we all crowd surf him off the convention?
He's banned, dude. He's banned.
Well, no, if he shows up, can we all crowd surf him off the convention stone stairs?
No, I think if Toon were to show up, we ought to enact some Old Testament law and stone him to death.
You think Toon would be dumb enough to show up with a fake mustache and think that nobody would recognize him?
Well, the sad thing is, people probably would fall for it because I know that bronies are pretty freaking dumb sometimes.
No. He'll show up in a bowler hat instead of a top hat. No one will notice.
All right, let's go.
And stopped, because I think people who do that might still have some relevant criticism. And in response, I said, that is an interesting analogy, and had someone watched part 1 and offered criticism.
I thought of another point. So MauLer says that this is objective, but if what he really means is as close to objectivity, then why does he call it objective? Why doesn't he call it as close to objective? That's weird.
Because it appeals more often to the fedora tipping crowd. It's objective.
I tip my fedora right now. I tip my fedora to you, MauLer.
For it, I am sure it would be helpful, but to eat a potato and complain that the entire meal tastes bad is simply not useful at all. He chose not to respond to me again after that exchange.
Okay, I want us to appreciate this. Okay, so H-Bomber Guy says, have you ever eaten something bad and stopped, or realized there were 8 more courses and stopped? Because I think people who do that might still have some relevant criticism. And MauLer's like, that's an interesting analogy. And had someone watched part 1 and offered criticism for it, I'm sure it would be helpful. But to eat a potato and complain that the entire meal tastes bad is simply not useful at all. Well, I mean, is that what H-Bomber Guy says?
This is in response to his DS2 series.
Okay.
So he has 8 or 10 videos, that I believe are about 20 to 30 minutes long. I don't remember.
Okay.
Do you know, comma?
Because here's what I'm wondering.
Oh God.
Because there's validity to this, right? For example, if I go to a restaurant and let's say it's a 3 Michelin star restaurant. So my expectation here is that this food is going to be amazing. Okay, so I sit down and, I order the potato and steak and vegetables maybe as a side. And the food comes and, I eat the potato, but I realize it's a fucking disgusting potato. It tastes like shit. And what if, in this scenario, the potato ruined my appetite to the point where I don't want to eat the rest of the meal? Right?
Well, there's also the fact that if the potato's bad, then maybe the restaurant's bad. Maybe the cook's not being professional.
Sure, but is it that, or is it that when I eat the potato, I claim that all the food is bad? What did H-Bomber Guy really say? Did H-Bomber Guy say what I said at first, or the second example? Right.
Well, here's another thing, Sheldon. It's like you eat this potato, you say it's bad, and then the guy next to you in the restaurant's like, hey, can I taste it? And they taste it, and it's like, this doesn't taste that bad. People can pick up and taste things differently. Now, also mind you, going back to what Manga said, it's in a kitchen, just much in an editing station or on the director's chair, it only takes one small mistake to make a project fall apart for someone. If someone thinks even the slightest detail in a film is bad or a piece of criticism or media, they can use that to just continuously go back to each point you make and say this is a contradiction, or this just doesn't make sense, or you said this before but now you're saying this, you're confusing me.
Sure, go ahead, Mike.
There's also this. I got 2 points. The first is Well, let's point it like this. Let's say, go back into the restaurant analogy here.
Mhm.
I mean, you wouldn't want to trust the restaurant if, say, you got the baked potato and you see, oh, there's a blue Band-Aid in it.
Oh, right. Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
I mean, that would really taint your experience. And while I'm not saying that's what MauLer's series is, but at the same time, I'm not in H. Bomber Guy's head. I don't know if that's what he's referring to.
Yeah.
I mean, there's also the fact that he realized, oh, there's 8 more courses. He's not directly saying that it's bad, but he's saying that
He's saying that this first experience has affected me wanting to stay here and eat the rest of the food. I don't want to now, right? It's
also there's the fact of the matter is that there's missing context here. Obviously, we don't know what the initial tweet was.
Well, because what I'm wondering is is H Bomber Guy really? Hold on.
Some people are commenting in the chat how documentaries are a pet peeve of theirs because they say that they're 100% fact, and it's I think I forgot which documentary it was, but they were doing a bit on the gazelle in in Africa, and they were saying how majestic it is, and then it shows the scene of it taking a shit in the prairie.
Okay. Yeah. Well. Here's an example. Well, let me finish this point here first.
Yeah.
This is actually more fun. Just going on these tangents. I'm having more fun doing this. but talking about this restaurant thing, because it's a really important point here, right? Is H Bomber Guy really dumb enough to walk into a restaurant, eat the potato, and go, the rest of your food is absolutely shit, even though I haven't tasted it? That just seems weird to me. Why would he say something like that? That seems strange. I mean, it's possible.
Well, this is the guy who dressed up this is the guy who inspired the horrible Sonic live-action movie, remember?
Sure. Well,
he did?
Yes. Yeah. I'm not saying it's not possible. I'm just questionable about that. That seems a little fucking strange to me. But
and once again, I'm just a little confused because there's obviously context. MauLer admits there's context, but he doesn't show us the context. I mean, we don't know what the original tweet was that H Bomber Guy's responding to.
Yeah, absolutely. Because if H Bomber Guy is saying something analogous to what I said at first, which is I had the potato. Let's say there's a blue Band-Aid in it, which is what you said. And that ruins my appetite for the rest of the meal. Another good analogy is a YouTube video. Let's say it's a 10-minute video, and I watch a minute in, and that minute in was so bad to me that I closed the video. Right? That's not me saying the rest of your video is bad necessarily. That's me saying what you showed me so far is not worth my time. Thus, I am not going to finish the video. Right? So there is a distinction here, and I'm wondering, what did H Bomber Guy mean exactly? Did he mean that one or the other one? But, okay, what were we talking about before that? Something about fucking word. You brought it up, I think.
What was it in regards to?
I don't remember. It's gone. I wanted to talk about it, though.
Oh, well.
Shit.
Oh.
Damn.
What is it?
Here's the thing. All you gotta do is just
Oh, I can rewind the stream. You're brilliant.
Yeah.
No, I'm not that interested. I'm not that interested.
Yeah.
Clearly behaving like someone who definitely isn't mad that they got owned online and just wants to have a conversation about the facts.
But recently the topic of objectivity versus subjectivity came up, and I received this from Harris. You're 100% entitled to your opinion, and you noticed a bunch of genuine mistakes I made in the
By the way, I like his voice here. It's funny. I like how he's imitating him. That's good.
Video, but pretending that your opinion is the only one based in facts, and people who find that approach tiresome are just scared of the truth, is a bit of an overstep.
I love being acknowledged by my peers online. It makes me feel powerful, virile, even.
So I responded by asking why.
Now, this is something I just want to point out, but this is because I'm going to be talking about this later, but honestly, one of the things that always bugs me when people respond like this is that they actually do respond. And I understand this is kind of weird for me saying, but think of it like this. If you honestly believe that their criticisms aren't really worth your time, why would you respond and give them actual attention? Because when you say stuff like this, you give people like MauLer and myself and everyone else ammunition to make you look bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a complicated question, and it's kind of a question of it's really complicated actually, because it's not just about that. It's also about from that potential interaction, can I benefit from it? Can I maybe win in that interaction? So there's kind of a titillation to it. There's a temptation there. And it might not necessarily be, like, you might genuinely not care about his opinion, but you might want something else from that interaction. Right. So, But it comes off as you caring about his opinion. Right. So
that's kind of the thing right here too, because like MauLer said earlier, he gets these quotes that he can put on the screen and make his point.
Yeah. Exactly.
Exactly. I mean, I'm not going to say that I haven't made stupid shit on Twitter before. I'm not going to say that
we've all said retarded shit, I'm sure. Absolutely. There's no question.
No. But at the same time...
surely.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when you're talking like, once again, using H-Bomber guy, someone who likes to proclaim himself to be like a master of logic and actually put out like his objectivity and also dress up creepily like Sonic the Hedgehog with blue paint painted over your naked body.
That's my fetish.
It just comes off as like really weird as to why you would even bother being like so...
Yeah, I kind of get what you're saying, because if he thinks his views are objective, assuming that's true, then surely, like, it wouldn't matter to him what other people say, because he has access to the ultimate truth of it all. But maybe what bothers him is that people don't agree with him and don't acknowledge his true mastery of that. I don't fucking know.
I mean, we actually saw evidence of that when he was calling people who liked Fallout 3 stupid idiots in this very video.
Yeah, he said, what is it? That
they play the game objectively wrong, and these people who...
No, it's like he says that there's people that like Fallout 3, and they happen to be the ones who click a dislike button, and they think that's genuine criticism. And it's like, and then he makes this claim where it's like, so objectively stupid people like Fallout 3.
Holy fuck, these people, man! I don't understand.
I think my opinions are facts due to achieving objectivity. Though I shouldn't be surprised, he's not the first intellectual to misrepresent my work. I don't think you're a...
Well, I would say this to MauLer, like, why don't you start your video with a fucking definition? Like, why don't you come out and just plainly and simply explain this to everybody, right? Because clearly there's a lot of fucking confusion out there regarding your...
Well, technically, this is the disclaimer. This whole hour-long video was the disclaimer in his Star Wars video.
Yeah,
not once have I heard him say, "This is my definition of objective."
Well,
and
he
then
doesn't say. It's like I think it's somewhere in the 27-minute mark when he uses.
So wait, he waits 27 minutes, but brings it up near the beginning.
Well, he doesn't even. It's that scene where like he uses the just right debate. And, like, Wolf says, like, this film is objectively bad, and then, like, Just Right starts to stutter, because he's like,
Oh, yeah.
And then, like, the objectivity definition, like, slowly pans up. And then he doesn't touch it again until, like, the 47-minute mark, where he actually claims what objectivity and subjectivity is.
I just feel like this guy could save some grief. I don't know, or I don't know, some time, because clearly he feels the need to respond to these people and clarify himself. So why don't you just make a video where you clearly write it out, right? Like just do that, man.
He spent 6 hours like discussing these videos that these people have done.
I mean, is he just really bad at explaining this? Is that what this is? Is he just
no,
shit at it?
They just go on to tangents every 10 seconds in those streams, Sheldon.
That's true.
You mean like this? You mean like what we're doing right now?
Like what we're literally doing right now. Right, exactly.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Oh no, we're hypocrites.
Oh no. Well, no, it's okay to go on tangents. That's okay. I don't mind.
That's subjective.
That's subjective. That's objectively subjective, okay?
With your approach to video game criticism, it's a little immature to write as if you've achieved objectivity, and I'm out to make you look crazy.
I mean, okay. I just want to say, like, H-Bomber guy is a fucking cuck. All right, like this guy is so fucking cucked. Like this dude is a walking fucking vagina. Okay,
I'm not Hold on, I'm not familiar with him. What's the background on him?
I'm not gonna explain it, but he's a cuck. All right,
he covers a lot of video games, and he thinks his opinions are facts.
Okay, Leo. If you want to know, he's got an Encyclopedia Dramatic page. He's also got a Kiwi Farms thread. Go for it. Go nuts.
He's a huge spurg. So enjoy, have fun.
Easy for it, and I'd recommend like chilling out. Lol.
Look at his eyes. God, they scare me. He's scary, dude. Look at those big eyes staring into my soul.
Guess it's easy to win a fight with an opponent made of straw.
You are damn
It's
right,
just like
Harris.
Frost
So you
Cloud
continue to
Sheldon.
ignore me or take pot shots when available instead of having a discussion, which is fine, I suppose. But I must say there is something very interesting about the first interaction I had with him. He pointed out a criticism of mine that was not valid, as it was clearly taking a joke seriously. I responded that even if it were a joke, I provided context so that viewers would understand that and choose to ignore me or see the argumentation for how weak it was regardless. I kept getting notifications.
or they're dumb and didn't get the joke. That's another possibility.
Implications of that conversation as time went on, likely because it was featured at the end of my Last Jedi series. As a result, many had a problem with how sheepishly he responded to my criticism, to try and come across as if he gave it a chance, only to pick up on one quote, and then refuse to reply when criticized for it. As a result, he has apparently decided to delete the tweet entirely, to remove that mistake from memory.
It's the closest I think I've seen someone come to admitting that they've lost. It appears that I owned him so hard with such bulletproof reasoning that he didn't even mention me or my video directly.
Now, this is something that I'm going to be a little bit more skeptical on, because once again, there's like about 42 comments here. I get that the tweet's deleted, but at the same time, MauLer was able to get it. I'm sure there's like an archive of it on Kiwi Farms that has it. I would like to see like the full conversation about that, because who knows, maybe H Bomber Guy did say more, because there's got that little bar right there where it shows like there's more conversation going on from the guy.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
I'm not saying that the comment itself is stupid, but it's kind of stupid that Mauler's just picking up on one tweet when there's obviously more going on. And once again, I'm willing to admit the fact that maybe there was just that maybe there was just that one statement from H Bomber Guy, but knowing how egotistical H Bomber Guy is, I kind of find it a little hard to believe that he'd just leave it at that.
Sure.
Right.
Fair enough.
There are mistakes in Dark Souls 2 and his video on it, but they are not flaws in overall game design objectively. They are mistakes, but they are not flaws. Right. I'm still happy to chat with you, Harris, whether or not your perspective makes a lick of sense. We could get along famously, I'm sure.
Well, there's a difference between saying something's a mistake and something's or whatever order it was, whether it was, something is a mistake versus whether or not something is an objective flaw. Like, the difference between those two statements is one applies objectivity to one of these things and one doesn't, right? So that's it's not necessarily a contradiction then, right? So keep that in mind.
Just stop with the snipes, unless you're going to give me a chance to actually have a conversation with you. It's a little bit unsporting, that's all.
I promise to not do that eventually, when I grow up one day.
So yes, objectivity and subjectivity. At this point, the concept has practically drawn a line between two types of critical analysis. The issue is that many content creators will blend the two ideas and then hide under the banner of subjectivity to avoid criticism. Rather than being happy to compare how they felt to the reality of the content, there is this stubborn assumption that the first thing you felt is now the only piece of information that's relevant to the deconstruction of the media.
How do you know it's the first thing they felt?
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a great point.
I mean,
maybe they thought about it. Maybe they thought about it. I don't know. Like,
it's
I mean, the only way you could actually say that it's the first thing if you're talking like first impression videos. Do you know what I mean? But even
even if those have you seen this? I know that MauLer did like an EFAP stream where he actually covered those kind of videos where like people came fresh out of the cinema and gave their thoughts as they're driving back home.
That's Cinema Sins. That's Cinema Sins, Jeremy.
Oh, it is. I thought it was some other random Brit dude who's just got like a cam in his car and he just goes off.
But
they
all blend together.
It's like even if that, like, is that their first thoughts?
Surely, like, their first thought is when they first see the stimuli and have a thought. They have to have a thought. They actually have to think about it. Obviously, they don't even need a thought. They just need a feeling, right?
And it's like even that fresh out of the cinema, like this is like you're still processing what's going on. You can't like describe properly like how it happened. Like obviously you can tell like they're angry or frustrated or like they liked it,
right,
but it's like it's not like an act like an honest portrayal of, well, not, I wouldn't say honest because they're not being dishonest about it, they're trying to be emotional about how they felt about a piece of media.
They're
for God's
trying to be
sakes.
emotional about how they felt about media? No way. No
Yeah,
way.
man.
No way.
And then there's also the fact of the matter is that a lot of these people will go on to write scripts and maybe even think about it for a while before they come to their thoughts. Again, this is kind of assuming that this is their first thoughts. I mean, if you want to talk about first thoughts, you can say, like, what we're doing is first thoughts here. I mean, I've seen this video. I'm pretty sure Shelly has. I'm not sure about Leo and the other guy here whose name I keep forgetting.
Yeah.
I've actually been racking. I've been racking my brain, really trying to make sure I have a good stance on this, or good arguments at least.
Yeah, I sent like Sheldon like 5 videos.
It gets really tricky, man. When you get to the point of like, I'm sitting here asking Word, I'm like, hey Word, if there's a TV and you're watching it and there's text on the screen and it says like, you know, buy some ice cream, is it objectively true that says buy some ice cream? Or is it the case that there's pixels arranged in a particular way, but your brain can interpret it as buy some ice cream? But that's not objectively true, that it says you can buy some ice cream. What's objectively true about that is just that pixels are arranged in a particular way. The subjective part is that you have a brain that can interpret that to mean something. I was racking my brain.
I can give another subjective one. It's the fucking lighting in the scene.
Yeah.
If I can't see the text so well, I'll bitch about it.
Oh, yeah. Right. Exactly. Okay, anyways.
Media. How you feel may remain with you, but that doesn't mean you should stop listening to other people, exploring the content with any depth, or allowing yourself to experience even more. Instead, there's this idea that you should hold on to that one narrow perspective, which is detrimental to...
I mean, like, maybe this is true for some people, but I don't know, like, does he think this is, like, most people? Okay...
Is he? I think he's implying that objectivity is what bridges the gap, Sheldon. It's like that common ground that Ty and Dago was talking about.
Again, though, this is still just an assumption on his part.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, unless he's like Men Talk the Mind Taker and read the minds of everyone who ever made a video. Yes, I love you now.
Wah, 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 wah. Men Talk the Mind Taker.
I missed that show.
That show was smarter than it had any right to be.
It was smarter than MauLer. It was smarter than MauLer, that's for sure.
That bar's on the ground and rusting.
Hey, I'll be right back. You guys continue on without me. I'll be right back.
All right, sounds good.
Communication, especially if it's based on false information. The sun being a star is just an opinion. Water being a liquid is just an opinion. And of course, The Last Jedi having a script chock full of defined inconsistencies is just an opinion. It's a fantastic tool for...
I mean, like, it is, right? Like, okay, it's not that it is, it's that you don't know if it is or not, right? That's like the honest position here, because you don't have access to like true objectivity. So you just have to make an assumption about it. And again, I've said this before, you can do that, but you know, you have to acknowledge that is what you're doing, right? If you're literally genuinely sitting here being like, no, that is a fact, or that is the truth of the matter, then it's like, well, how do you know that? You can't even know that. What are you talking about? You know, like,
right.
It's good. But, you know, MauLer could say, well, it's implied. It's implied that I don't know it 100%. Like, sure. You know, when I say...
Does that mean that's his opinion?
Well, I guess. I don't know.
Okay,
I don't know.
I'm back.
I mean, it's just like, this is goofy. This is just goofy shit.
Modern analyst, it's like a free pass. You don't have to do any work on your script at that point because it can't be wrong. It's all just an opinion. You know what, guys? Maybe I didn't get the date wrong in Black Panther. Maybe that was my opinion of the date. It was my experience of the date. You can't say it's wrong.
I mean, opinions have consequences, right? So, I mean, if I write a movie and I release it and most people don't like it, that has a monetary effect on me. Right? I'm not going to generate as much money as the other movie that sells more ticket sales. The same is true even in interpersonal relationships, right? It's like an opinion I give can have detrimental effects to my relationships with other people, right?
Don't show up to school tomorrow, in my opinion.
Don't show up to BronyCon. Don't show up to BronyCon.
Well, there's also there's also the fact that some people will base their opinions off of facts, and if those opinions are wrong, then by that extension, shouldn't those opinions be wrong too if the facts are wrong?
Well, okay, so no.
I mean, he talks because the thing, Manga. He says that objectivity is like making an emotionless statement, but the criteria of that being an emotionless statement is using words that don't like have
that's the thing.
Interpretive language to it, like feelings or like adjectives like good, bad, smelly, tasteless, stuff like that.
I like how smelly came to your mind. Why did smelly come to your mind?
Because it's
because I have smelly fingers.
Because it's that smelly smell, that smelly smell that smells.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, thanks, Leo. Thanks, Leo.
Where are those?
But wait. What was Manga saying though? I wanted to hear that.
Yeah. Well, I was saying like if you basically base your opinions off of facts, and those facts tend to be wrong, then by extension, that opinion isn't really an opinion, because if you look at a lot of people, they'll often try to phrase their opinions be based around facts, and they'll add whatever they can to back up said opinion to give it more, more clarification or more oomph. Or what's the word that's?
I don't know. I have no idea.
Like an interjection.
No. Like it has more weight behind it. Like the opinion has more weight behind it because you have objective facts behind it.
You say like
okay.
All black people are retarded.
Okay, well,
like you use a collective word like that, right? All or everything. It's like you're making a general statement.
You can have. Well, here's the thing, right? You can have an opinion about something that's not real, right? So I can have an opinion about something I imagine, right? And that doesn't make it not an opinion. That just means that your opinion is directed towards something that's imagined, right? So it like, for example, if it's a fact and you get the fact wrong, but you have an opinion about it, you just have an opinion about a straw man of the fact or an incorrect fact, right? Basically.
Well, then again, that's also basically what I'm trying to get at, because that kind of seems like it's a bad thing to have, because it kind of shows that, I mean, you've got a straw man of a fact. I'd say it's like, I'd say it's just like you being an idiot, not actually doing your homework.
Yeah, well, it depends. It's like, do you want to convince people that you're right? And if you want to convince people that you're right, assuming the people agree that that is the fact, then you better be accurate with the fact, or else you're just not going to convince them because they're going to point out that you're not accurate with the fact. So if you value people agreeing with you, then you'll care about it. You know what I'm saying? So it's something like that.
I have to marathon Rick and Morty. Got it.
Yeah. All 5 seasons, by the way. Don't skip them.
No, there's 12.
I've seen all 5 seasons, by the way.
I've seen all 7, bitch.
Oh.
I wish I hadn't seen any of it.
Wrong. Do you see how useful it is to construct essays that way?
I just shouldn't be allowed to talk about Dark Souls anymore. Someone should just come and stop.
That is so creepy and horrible.
So I had an extensive stream with my community while playing Sly Cooper some time
Furry confirmed
ago. This particular issue was discussed heavily, and there were several comments about what seems to be this open frustration about using the word objective whatsoever on YouTube. There is no fear of fact.
Well, because you say dumb shit. Like, people say dumb shit about it. That's why. Like, who cares? All right. You know what? I'm done. I don't want to talk about this anymore. I'm finished. I've had my fun.
Yeah.
That's it.
We broke Sheldon. We broke Sheldon.
I did it.
Even Owen PMs me and he's like, Sheldon, it says that it's starting soon, you dummy. I'm like,
Hey, Owen.
End your life. Kill yourself.
Wake me up. Wake me up.
Rent free in your head. Starting soon is rent free in your head.
Okay. Let me do this. Boom. And okay. I've finally taken off starting soon, and now I'm gonna put up the post show notification. Yes, this is the post show currently.
Oh no.
All right. So I don't know what to say, right? Like, I don't see how his argument here makes sense in any way. Okay. I mean, if what he means here is, getting closer, like this commenter brings up an interesting point, I don't even really know what his definition of objectivity in relation to what he's talking about is exactly. I can vaguely figure it out based on what he's saying, but I'm still not sure I have it down packed here. And aside from this, MauLer could come with the claim that, I'm just trying to get closer to the objective. I'm just, you're right, ShellyD. Oh, my name is Nigger. I just noticed that. My name is Nigger. That was Vita, I'm sure. It's okay, Vita. I'm already demonetized. It doesn't fucking matter. But anyways.
So, it's all right. I changed mangas from something else to mango common.
Oh, mangoes are tasty.
It says mango.
I went through a lot of name transitions. It was a tug of war between me and Vita.
I didn't even notice that. Your guys are still showing up normally on my side. I had to change mine to it's Sheldon's fault, not mine, because of what Vita changed my name to.
So I would say...
it's actually
go ahead, Manga.
Yeah. I was going to say it's kind of sad. We didn't actually get to one of the worst points where he says, like, a plot contrivance and a plot hole are the same thing.
Well,
what?
You can explain why that's dumb. Feel free. Go ahead.
Well, the thing is, he says that he talks about how he goes back to Patrick Williams at the end with this, and he talks about how plot contrivances and plot holes are the same thing. The only difference is plot holes are worse because a plot contrivance is something that could happen.
Okay.
Well, it's either it does or it doesn't.
Let me pull up a plot contrivance. I want to see what Google is going to tell me about that. Because I think I know what it is.
Oh, yeah, Google.
What is it, Manga? Would you say that, like, Poe miraculously surviving the crash and, like, just showing up without any explanation is a contrivance or a plot?
Let's lay out definitions. Okay, so contrivance to me, right? If I'm watching something and whatever I'm watching gives me the distinct feeling that I'm watching it right now, right? So whatever's happening on the screen, if I get the feeling, wow, I really feel like I'm watching something right now. Like I don't feel engrossed in this. I feel like what this thing is doing is making me think about how it's not actually real, how it was purposefully written by a person, right? That to me is a contrivance, okay? A plot hole is anything you can label as being, any kind of inconsistency or something illogical pertaining to the plot of the story, right? Something that's incompatible or seemingly incompatible, at least in the fictitious sense at the very least, based on the established rules of the narrative, whatever those might be. Okay, so what does he think a contrivance is? Because I'm not sure what he means by contrivance. Because to me, that just means anything that points out, anything that I watch makes me feel like this is artificial, right? I'm watching a movie right now. I'm not engrossed in the movie. This feels artificial. So what does he even mean? And what the fuck do you guys mean by contrivance and plot hole?
Oh, since I'm going to bring it up, I like to think that maybe a plot contrivance and a plot hole is completely different. In my perspective, a plot hole is basically something that comes completely out of nowhere, and basically it just has no real logic in the story, like with like any pre-establishment, or once again, this is only just self-contained stories. I like to say like a single movie or a single episode of a TV show or something like that. Yeah. But a plot contrivance is something like basically a character, and I'm just using it as an example, like a character goes completely out of character for no real reason just to solve a problem.
Right. Okay.
Like it's really generalized and depends on a lot of context. Otherwise, like going back to that whole, rock throwing boy thing I talked about way earlier in the stream, it can be explained and a contradiction can work in a story, but once again, it just depends on the context and what form you're going for.
Sure. Well, what do you think about MauLer's claim here?
About plot holes versus plot contrivances, or just in general?
Well, about plot holes and plot contrivances.
Well, in my case, I share more of a similarity to MauLer's values in just terms of priorities when it comes to storytelling.
Okay.
You know, I mean, if you want to put it in a more simplistic case, you know, it's like just things that my mind pick up that just bother me, and it's like, well, can I like reason with myself an explanation for this? Well, yes, I can, but can the film do that? No, and I can't abide by that. You know, it's like it would be easier for me to make something up, you know, and like say that this can be explained in some exterior media, and normally in that case it would be myself. In the case of The Last Jedi, I mean, I could make up some reasons as to why some of the things happened, but like with the whole hangar scene with like a room full of stormtroopers and then they disappear, you know, and reappear in a hallway. Right. It's like I can't. You
can't accept it.
I can't do
You
that.
can't accept it at all.
And like I accept the fact that this comes down to a value judgment,
right?
And that, you know, I still find MauLer's like, you know, media entertaining to me. You know,
sure,
it's just that's how I am. When it comes to, you know, the general sense of plot holes and plot contrivances. I mean, they're kind of classified as the same thing in my case because, you know, a contradiction can be something that could be explained, but like a plot hole is just like...
I have the direct quote right here. Maybe if I say it correctly, maybe
cool.
they'll...
From his video or like from a definition?
From his video. Where he says, a plot hole is a plot contrivance, but worse. At least with a contrivance, it could happen. A plot hole, by definition, is a strict contradiction.
What? No, that's not the same.
I don't agree with this definition of contrivance. I don't agree with that.
That's a weird way to phrase it.
I'm going to have to delve into my boomerism as far as nerddom goes. Okay. A plot hole is like, say, in the original Transformers cartoon, you see that the Constructicons were stated as being built on Earth.
Okay.
Right? But later on, you get a scene where they talk about the origins of Megatron, and in that scene, you see the Constructicons on Cybertron 4 million years ago assembling Megatron. That is a plot hole. A plot contrivance is not a plot, or, you know, no, they're not the same thing. It's ridiculous.
It could be a contrivance in the sense of like, okay, you see that, and then you go, this doesn't make sense, and it takes you out of the fucking experience. Then it's a contrivance.
I think it goes back to like what MauLer says about statements being like they sound right. It's like hearing it like just through all the filters that he says up to that point, like you'll just kind of miss it. So yeah.
Okay, my conclusion here is I don't know. I think he has this strange view about what constitutes something what constitutes objectivity, whether or not you're talking about, you know, it as a fact or it as being unbiased by any preferences. Regardless, it seems to me that MauLer is sneaking in preferences when he talks about this subject. There's words like logical and consistency and all of these things that I know he prefers. So he has some weird conflation here where he thinks because something is logical or something is consistent, it qualifies as objective. That's what I'm taking away from this. I've seen like 4 of his fucking videos at this point about this topic. I don't know how I'm misunderstanding this. I'm sure he'll find a way to say that I'm misunderstanding this. And maybe I am. It's possible.
And that's when you walk up and you slap him in the mouth and you say, no, you.
Well, that's probably what'll happen at the end of the day. But you know, I'd pay
to see that show for $1.
I've never seen The Last Jedi. I don't give a fuck about Star Wars, right?
I don't either.
I do not fucking care. I just saw this video and I thought that's a really weird. It's kind of an interesting interpretation, but it's very strange to me. It's very...
You should have heard of Mango when we first got into a call talking about it. It's like this guy, if he proves this to be true, this man should like win a Nobel Peace Prize.
Well, there's a problem in philosophy called the is-ought problem, right?
Yeah,
I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's basically, can you get a fact, or can you get a value? Sorry, can you get a fact from a value directly, right? So can I, with a fact, directly get a value from that object, right? From that factual thing. It turns out that well, I guess the consensus now is that facts can help you. It can help shape your values, right? Facts can help inform your values. It can help you make a decision, but the fact itself does not make a decision, right? A simple fact is not going to. It is not a value. Basically, the problem is attempting to. It's attempting to. MauLer kind of talked about this. It's attempting to is there a distinction between a fact and a value, right? Are they the same thing or are they not? And the consensus in philosophy anyways now is that there is a distinction, right? There is a distinction between those two things. But according to MauLer, I mean, a statement like objectively good or bad would qualify as something that would have to solve the is-ought problem, right? Because you're claiming that there is an objective value to something, right? You're saying that there is a factual value, right? So that would solve the is-ought problem, and he would win a fucking Nobel Prize for that, because no one's been able to solve it. People have claimed they've solved it, but nobody has ever been recognized as actually solving it, because I guess I would make the assumption that there is a distinction and there's nothing to solve here. Values are just values and facts are just facts, right?
I'm still stuck on and angry about the plot hole versus plot contrivance thing.
Oh, wow.
We unleashed the nerd.
Well, no, it's just the fact that a plot contrivance is intentional. A plot hole generally is not. So no, they're not the same thing, but one's worse.
Is it what like? Is it
although there's something interesting. Worse, isn't that his opinion that it's worse?
Yeah, yes. That's a value judgment.
Worse is a value judgment.
I mean, unless the values of literature were written by robots.
I mean, again, it comes down to context. I mean, it comes down to context too. I mean, I'm not denying that a plot hole can be outshined by a plot contrivance, but it depends on what you're talking about and if it's equatable. You know what I mean?
Man, it depends on a lot of things. Like, what did you eat today? What you eat affects your mood, right? Not eating affects how you might make opinions about things, right? Did you get enough sleep? Whatever. I could go on and on.
So what you're saying is we got to get MauLer a sandwich filled with sleeping pills. Got it.
No comment. But no, even when it comes to contrivance versus plot hole, all right, I'm going to go back to my boomerism here, all right? In the original Transformer movie, Hot Rod winds up in the belly of Unicron with the same area as Galvatron. Unicron is the size of a planet, multiple times the size of Earth, right? Yeah. That's a plot contrivance. Why? Because Galvatron had the Matrix. Hot Rod needed to get a hold of it to destroy Unicron. That's a contrivance because the writers intentionally did that, as opposed to the plot hole I mentioned earlier, where chances are that was the animation team as opposed to the writing staff.
Yeah, but everybody's intentionally doing everything they do on a production. Right? Like, a writer who writes a line is intentionally writing it, right? An animator who is animating something is I mean, unless the gun's held to their head or something, maybe.
Well, I mean, you say that, but there's a reason why animation errors do exist. They're not intentionally making the errors.
Okay, I see. Yeah, sure. There's some instances where something might not be intended. Well, it's like what manga comment mentioned.
Or at the very least, like, they don't give enough of a fuck, or they'll just assume they won't notice it.
But you'll acknowledge that most things are intentional, right? When it comes to any given script.
No, when it comes to writing, I will say most things are intentional.
Yeah.
But when it comes to a plot hole, that may not be their intention. Like going back, like, say we were to use the previous example I used of the whole Megatron thing, right? As boomerist as that's going to be.
Sure.
Here's the thing: most of that animation was outsourced primarily to a studio called ACOM.
Okay.
ACOM probably looked at the script, and it likely didn't give any details about the scene itself other than Megatron being built on a table. And they went back to their production, and they said, well, which of the Decepticons build things? Oh, the Constructicons. So they stick them in a scene they should not be in. So that choice may have been intentional, but the lack of consistency likely was not.
Right. I see what you're saying. So what would you call a plot contrivance exactly? Like, define it for me. What is that?
A plot contrivance is when you get something finalized or something that moves the plot forward or gains momentum in a way that is not so natural, more of just stuck in there randomly.
Okay. So you would say it's an artificiality to it. There's
Yes.
this degree. Okay. And what did you? Okay. So, do you think a plot hole can be a plot contrivance at the same time? So what if the plot hole gives off a veneer of artificiality? Is it a plot contrivance as well?
I'd say no, because a plot contrivance tends to move things forward as opposed to a plot hole, which sort of just lingers in the ether.
Okay. I see what you're saying. All right.
But
Fair
that's
enough.
a value judgment.
Oh no, how dare I have one?
Well, I don't like your fucking definition, Leo. Fuck you.
Well, I don't like your face.
Why don't you come here and do something, you fucking pussy?
What do you want me to do? Throw green onions at you?
No,
Make
I
your
want you
back
to
break
come here
again?
and teach me a fucking lesson, bitch. Do it.
I am teaching you a lesson.
You a fucking puss. I'm gonna
Do it, nigger.
I'm gonna fucking give you my address right now, and you're gonna come to my house, and we're gonna fight.
Do it. I'll send you another My Little Pony drawing, you giant homo.
You should. It was a nice drawing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, that's enough. That's a.
It's
I
a
don't.
date.
Okay,
It's
listen.
a date.
I don't. We're just going on about nothing at this point. All right. Do you guys have any final thoughts on MauLer or no?
I do. I got a couple final thoughts.
Sure. All right.
While I do enjoy his content, I mean, I used to enjoy a lot of his video game content because it was actually pretty good, and not to mention that he actually did, prove some points about other reviewers in that regard. But at the same time, it's just like there's a lot of fat that you could trim out of your videos. I mean, if you look at his H-Bomber guy response videos, he actually goes on and makes a whole thing about how H-Bomber guy prefers, how bosses are better when you can fight them on equal footing and level. And honestly, I felt like, you really didn't need to cover that. It's not actually something that's, really that necessary. And if you did, well, I guess that's your opinion.
Right. You would say
Unless
talks
he
about
actually states that, like he's pulling things from his assumptions.
Right. Leo, I know you have so many opinions on MauLer. Please take me through the list.
I just want to know where people keep getting all these bad screen names from that don't apply to them in any way, shape, or form. Like, I thought bronies were bad about it, but apparently so are YouTube commentators, and it's making me very, very angry on a personal level.
Excuse me, art critics, Leo, media critics, thank you.
I'll call them cocksucking dingleberries if I feel like it. You'll sit there and take it like a good boy.
Okay. All right.
Now, more importantly, I do need to address something real quick.
Yeah.
You should totally ban Eric Johnson because he is an annoying piece of garbage always in your comment section, and I want to strangle the life from him.
I don't acknowledge the existence of Eric Johnson. Okay.
Oh,
yeah, that's the subjective opinion, Leo. Deal with
You just did there, Shelly. You kind of just did.
Shut up.
Now he's real. He's a real boy now.
Make him work in the coal mines.
Okay, well, I guess we'll wrap it up there.
Leo, you're the only person who makes him real.
Oh, no. Any final thoughts, Word?
I mean, I pretty much just gave my thoughts on how I feel about MauLer.
All right.
I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, I kind of take what MauLer looks and takes apart things and I apply it to how I write stuff, but I can easily acknowledge that, through my discussions with Sheldon when we were going through the Just Right debate, that it was just simply a value assessment of things.
Yeah.
It's not really true objectivity. But I mean, Sheldon could admit it just simply goes down to the fact that he uses the word objective.
Yeah, well, it could definitely be a semantic issue here. I have no problem acknowledging that. And I do also want to say that I think MauLer's good at analysis videos.
Yes.
I think
he's very entertaining too.
Yeah, I think he's good at it. I wish we could solve this, and I don't think that he. I mean, I wish he would just acknowledge that this is really a preference of his. This is not objectivity, right? But
he's not going to do that. He's not going to do that.
Well, whatever. Then I'll keep making fun of him for it. But
we'll ask him the important question.
Yeah, maybe they'll watch this on EFAP, and then we can respond. Maybe we can go on to EFAP.
God, do you know how long that's going to be? It's going to be 10-hour long EFAP. It's going to be a 20-hour long this one.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. See, on the EFAP, I'll only be there to respond, and then I'm leaving. I'm not going to stick around. But yeah, I mean, if that's MauLer, if you ever listen to this, you want us on EFAP, send me a message. I guess I'm in your server. I could ask. Maybe I'll ask him. I don't know. I really want him I want him to come to me. Like
link this video to him.
I want him to be annoyed by me and come to me. Like, I want to piss him off. I don't want to just go to him and ask.
Always wants them to come.
Lewd.
Oh dear God! What did you do?
I don't
to
know.
my name?
Maybe
I just realized that.
Maybe if he's cute, I'd fuck him in the butt. I don't know. Like, I'd have to see him, but
that was Vita that did that to you.
Oh, well,
whatever.
No, Vita tried to do that, assuming
he did it again to manga.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Oh, he did.
Yep.
Should have changed it to Mango Comment.
I did. I had it at Mango's comment.
All right. Hey. All right. We're ending. We're ending this. We're done. Okay. Thank you, Manga, for coming on. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks, Word,
yeah,
Leo,
thanks, man.
and we'll see you guys next week. I don't know what we're talking about, but we'll get there when we get there. Bye-bye.